Chapter 1396. If he could see or feel the attack, he could still barely defend and counterattack. However, if he couldn't see or feel the attack, he definitely couldn't counterattack. Facing the shadow of Tomb of Reincarnation, Beast Emperor 666 was instantly doomed. Pfft. Dustless's shadow controlled the complete body Kansusanu and raised his sword. He channeled his strength to the maximum and slashed at Beast Emperor 666's body. Beast Emperor 666 was instantly split into two. Bang bang bang. The body that was a few hundred meters tall was mercilessly cut in half. The body that was as big as a mountain fell to the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was chaos. Bang bang bang. Caw caw caw. At the same time, the attack of the infinite dragon god Orpheus suddenly arrived. This Lolita dragon looked harmless and was often good at acting cute. However, when she attacked, there was no hesitation at all. Beast Emperor 666's lower body that was cut in half was smashed into pieces by her. Gulp. Witnessing this scene, Lezivim's throat suddenly choked. Looking at the miserable Beast Emperor 666, his own soul had been burned to nothing. He suddenly realized that he had suffered a loss. Is this really Beast Emperor 666 that's comparable to the Great Red? Lezivim's eyes were filled with doubt. If it was Beast Emperor 666, it was too weak to be beaten up by Dustless and Orpheus. He didn't even know who the enemy was before his body was inexplicably cut in half. Still not dead. Sensing that Lezivim's soul was not completely burned, Dustless wanted to help him. He waved his hand and a pink light flew out. Pathbreaker 54, Waste Flame. At this moment, Lezivim was like a fish on a chopping board. He could only watch the incoming attack. He couldn't even free his hands to counterattack. His expression was very weak and weak. Boom boom boom. The burning Lezivim exploded and was completely engulfed in the flames. Roar roar roar. The crippled Beast Emperor 666 roared to the sky. His collapsed wounds miraculously healed. He winked proudly and arrogantly. His nondescript head also recovered to its original state. This guy, his ability is somewhat similar to my super regeneration. Dustless frowned. Perhaps Beast Emperor 666's strongest point wasn't his attack power, but his instant recovery ability. Everyone would die from exhaustion. No wonder it can only be sealed. This kind of ability is a headache for the native gods of this world. Dustless had some understanding of the gods of this world. His attacks were rather monotonous, and he used the same few moves over and over again. It's a little tricky. Orpheus moved to Dustless's side. It would be difficult for him to destroy Beast Emperor 666. Its recovery ability was too overpowered. It could instantly restore itself to its original state. Troublesome. Dustless sneered and said sarcastically, "If that's all he has, I can tell you clearly that this ugly emperor is going to die today." As an invader from another dimension, Dustless had trampled on 3 worlds in a row. What kind of strange abilities had he not seen before? An unlimited recovery ability was nothing. At least Dustless would have no problem dealing with him. Listen up. Whether it's sealing you or killing you, I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead. With both hands, Dustless was even more ruthless this time. In the world of the Tomb of Reincarnation, there were suddenly a few more shadows. There were a total of 12 shadows. And they were using the exact same move at the same time. Would release, Immortal Art, True Thousand Hands. Beast Emperor 666's body was very big, but there was a gap between him and Senja Hashirama's strongest technique, True Thousand Hands. He was half a head shorter. Especially when he was surrounded by 12 True Thousand Hands, he looked even more small and fragile. He could be annihilated under countless fists at any time. Of course, Orpheus, who didn't have Rinnegan or Rikudo Senjutsu, couldn't see this scene. Turn into foam for me, damn beast that doesn't look like a human or a ghost. As Dustless's voice fell, all his shadows began to form hand seals, responding to Dustless's call, and giant fists all flew out. Buddha on top. Whoosh! The invisible world of Tomb of Reincarnation was filled with this kind of dense air-piercing sound. Looking up, row after row of huge fists were flying towards Beast Emperor 666. 12, a true 1,000 hands, were attacking at the same time. This scene had never happened before. However, such a shocking scene was only seen by Dustless. After all, he was the only one in the world who had Rinnegan and Rikudo Senjutsu. Bang! 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 Even so, the scene that appeared in the eyes of Orpheus and Seraph was extremely exaggerated. Caw caw caw. The Beast Emperor's body, which was hundreds of meters tall, collapsed inexplicably. He was beaten to a bloody pulp. Pieces of flesh and bones flew everywhere, but Orpheus and Seraph couldn't see who had attacked him. The only thing left in the world was Beast Emperor 666's painful howl. Just a reckless beast, I give you a little sunshine, and you're brilliant. Do you really think you're invincible? Ridiculous. Pursing his lips, Wuchen did not hide the sneer on his face. Boom boom boom. The ruthless destructive blows continued. The 12 shadows launched true 1,000 hands at the same time to deal a fatal blow to Beast Emperor 666. Ow ow ow. The Beast Emperor howled in agony. His bones and flesh had been smashed into fist-sized pieces. He was in a state worse than death. His hysterical howls of agony resounded through the sky. Even Orpheus, who was simple and ignorant of the world, frowned slightly. She and Seraph looked at Dustless at the same time. Both of them felt that the man in front of them was too terrible. His strength was unfathomable. Offending him was tantamount to putting an end to this world. Just like the scene in front of them, they were beaten black and blue, but they didn't even know how to do it. Chapter 1397. Beast Emperor 666 was the only one who received such treatment after being attacked by 12 shadows consecutively. He was so happy that he didn't want it anymore. That horrifying scream made one's scalp numb and filled with despair. Ow ow ow. Woo woo woo. Although Beast Emperor 666 was beaten to a pulp, his body could still be repaired. However, he was still unavoidably beaten up. This cycle repeated over and over again. Beast Emperor 666 was extremely miserable. Blood flowed like a river on the ground. His identity was also changed. He became the arrogant one and became the bullied one. Boom boom boom. The 12 shadows, 1,000 hands, was also used up. Only then did the invincible attack stop. Beast Emperor 666 was panting heavily. In the past few minutes, he was almost beaten up dozens of times. Although he could revive each time, the physical damage caused by the physical attacks was real and couldn't be removed. Ow ow ow. Woo woo woo. Several heads stared at Dustless. Their huge eyes were cold. If looks could kill, perhaps Dustless would have been cut into pieces by Beast Emperor 666. Ow 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 ow. Beast Emperor 666 opened his mouth and wanted to take revenge on Dustless. Infinite Dragon God Orpheus, the loyal bodyguard, immediately retaliated. It was one of the strongest moves. Boom boom boom. Rolling golden flames were spat out from Orpheus' mouth. It was just a small ball of fire, but the waves it emitted affected the entire world. Although it wasn't as scary as Zenkan no Tachi, the water around it was evaporated. Boom boom boom. The flames hit Beast Emperor 666 head-on. His mighty body was black as if he had just climbed out of the mud. There was a burnt smell all over his body. Don't ignore my existence. Orpheus raised his fist and waved it. He was obviously saying that if you ignore my existence, I will beat you to death. It still doesn't work, Dustless frowned. Beast Emperor 666's burnt wounds healed in the blink of an eye. However, the pain of being beaten up by Orpheus was real. Woo woo woo, Beast Emperor 666 stretched out his head and shouted. It seemed to be saying that none of their moves were effective. There's no limit to his arrogance. Dustless's lips curled up slightly. He ignored the Beast Emperor's furious roar. This guy could only take advantage of him verbally. From the moment he came out until now, he had been the one getting beaten up. Swish! Swish! Enraged, the Beast Emperor lowered its body and opened its mouth to bite Dustless and the others. Its mouth was several meters long. It seemed like he wanted to kill Dustless and Orpheus in one go. Super Shinritensei. The 9-Tomo reincarnation eye emitted a dangerous fluctuation, an earth-shattering repulsive force erupting. Boom boom boom. A huge crater several dozen kilometers wide appeared on the ground, as if it had been struck by an extraterrestrial meteor. It covered the entire territory of the Gimli family. Even the infinite dragon god Orpheus' cute little face changed slightly, and it could not help but shiver. It could not help but imagine what would happen if it was attacked head-on. Bang bang bang. The Beast Emperor exploded into a bloody mist again, but only a few seconds later, he appeared in front of Dustless again. This guy is indeed a little difficult to deal with. At this point, Dustless had no choice but to admit defeat. This guy was like his 10-tailed body. Even if he was cut into pieces and beaten until only his cells were left, he could still break out of his cocoon and be reborn. This is the fundamental reason why I can only seal him. Orpheus' face always maintained a calm expression. If that's the case, then seal him. Banish him to the universe and let him live a life worse than death. After all, he had already beaten this guy dozens of times, and Dustless' anger had subsided. He could just continue to seal him. Out of sight, out of mind. It's easier said than done. Orpheus raised her voice and was speechless. This was the Beast Emperor 666, an existence that was almost at the same level as her. Sealing him was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Don't worry, I'm very good at sealing. Dustless smiled calmly and then threw a black body into the void. The ground suddenly trembled, and a majestic gravitational force shot down from above. Chibaku Tensei. He used all his strength to cast the Chibaku Tensei, and there was a qualitative change. A large piece of the ground was torn apart, including the Beast Emperor 666, who was a few hundred meters tall. His huge body ignored the existence of gravity and unbelievably floated up. The moment the gravitational sphere appeared, the whole world began to slowly float up. What kind of move is this? Orpheus could no longer maintain her calm expression. For the first time in her life, she was stunned. Not to mention the Beast Emperor 666, even she felt that she was about to be torn apart. The high-density gravitational force enveloped her, and she lost control of her body. This was the situation where Dustless did not deliberately target Orpheus. Otherwise, she might be like the Beast Emperor 666. Ow ow ow. Woo woo woo, the Beast Emperor 666 screamed in panic. He shook and struggled with his huge body, but in the end, it was useless. His body that was a few hundred meters tall gradually merged into the Chibaku Tensei. Seeing that he was about to be sealed, the Beast Emperor 666 had no strength to fight back. Under this destructive gravitational force, it was thousands of times more difficult for him to move his arms and legs. It was even difficult for him to open his mouth to speak, let alone fight back against Dustless. He could only look at the large-scale meteorite that was getting closer and closer in despair. It's over, Dustless's gaze froze slightly. The Beast Emperor 666's body completely disappeared and was sealed inside the Chibaku Tensei. Chapter 1398. The entire world was silent as everyone stared blankly at the meteorite that was expanding in the void. The moon was falling slowly, and Dustless created an even more exaggerated planet with his own strength. This heaven-defying method stunned everyone. Even the infinite dragon god, Orpheus, had his mouth wide open, and his eyes were filled with shock. This was equivalent to indirectly creating a world. It's over, then, there's no need for you to fall. Glancing at the meteorite and the Chibaku Tensei that sealed the Beast King 666, he activated his Tensigan again, and the moon returned to its original orbit. And the poor Beast King 666 was directly exiled into space by Dustless. Time flew, and half a month passed in the blink of an eye. The underworld that had been scorched by the last war had begun to be rebuilt, and many areas had been restored to their original appearance. But the painful lessons left behind by the war could not be forgotten. For example, the unexpected death of Sazax. Gilifia, Riaz, and the others, including his mother, were extremely sad. When they found Sazax's body, he was devastated beyond recognition. Inside the luxurious villa of the Gimli family. Can such an unbelievable thing really be done? Riaz's tone was tearful and a little touched, thinking that Dustless was comforting her. Bringing someone back from the dead was too unreal for Tai. Of course, I can use my outer path, reincarnation of heaven, to bring Sazax back to life. Dustless nodded affirmatively. Reviving someone was a piece of cake for him. Watch carefully. With everyone's anticipation, Dustless walked to Sazax's charred body and shouted, "Outer path, reincarnation of heaven." Sazax's body was covered in an emerald light that contained a vast amount of vitality, and his shattered and charred body began to recover. His charred skin also began to heal. Can it really be done? The girls exclaimed, and Riaz were the most excited. Where is this? After a while, Sazax's eyebrows twitched slightly, and then he opened his eyes and looked at the world in front of him in confusion. Am I not dead? And who are you? His words caused Gulifia and Riaz, who were crying tears of joy, to freeze. Is there something wrong with my memory? This has never happened before. Dustless said with a frown. Then he guessed, maybe there's something wrong with his soul. Lezavim and the others were ruthless enough. Just in case, they probably even did something to Sazax's soul. That's enough. Despite her disappointment, Gilifia still walked up to Dustless and thanked him sincerely. Don't worry about it. Dustless smiled. It was just reviving a person. With his eye power, it was a simple and easy task. It's time to take them away. Dustless glanced at the girls and knew that their trip to this world was over. He was about to bring them back to the system and invade the next world. Demon King Seraphil raised her eyebrows and said unhappily, "It's you, not us. Pay attention to the way you speak. If you don't handle it well, others might misunderstand. It's your own business if you refuse." Dustless glanced at Seraphil and said playfully, "But I'll still kidnap you by force." You! Shameless! Seraphil stomped her feet in frustration. Pfft! The girls couldn't help but laugh. Seraphil was quite the tragedy. As a demon king, she had no choice but to admit defeat when faced with the unreasonable Dustless. Who told him to have the biggest fist? Sazax. Gilifia had a complicated expression. She didn't expect this to happen. She felt a stabbing pain in her heart when Sazax looked at her with those strange eyes. Seraphil and I will both leave. After that, the Demon King will be alone. Why don't we promote him and let him be a carefree demon god? Dustless suggested. And me, Gilifia had yet to finish talking when she was glared at by Dustless. Now that Gulifia was also Dustless's reverse scale, how could he let Gulifia continue to stay in the demon realm? There was no way she could stay. As for Sazax, Dustless didn't feel that he had done anything wrong by reviving him and giving him a unique position as a demon god. Including Seraph's younger sister, Tsang Na Sytry, as well as her large group of dependents, Dustless took them all away. Although he was ready to leave, Dustless wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he went to various mythological systems and wiped out all the messy ones. Dustless didn't even do anything. The infinite dragon god Orpheus and the Great Red were a super combination. Did Dustless need to do anything himself? Obviously, there was no need for that. For example, Hades of the underworld and the Indian mythological systems were even more important targets. In the end, they were all destroyed by Dustless. When it was time to leave, Dustless held a big wedding. After dealing with all the trivial matters, Dustless planned to leave this world with the girls. Almost all the mythological systems had been wiped out. They had all been cruelly killed. Dustless had mercilessly annihilated them all. There was no one who could threaten Sazax at all. Therefore, his position as the demon god could be held comfortably. Chapter 1399. The sun shone brightly in the system world, the sky was cloudless for thousands of miles, and the breeze from afar was unusually refreshing. With a slight sniff, one could not help but indulge in it. Dustless leaned against a tree with a blade of grass in his mouth. Today, the people are so happy, humming a tune out of tune. Dustless's face was full of smiles. Following his line of sight, in the clear pond in front of him, countless beautiful figures rolled together and laughed. Mei Terumi, Hinata Hyuga, Boa Hancock, Robin, Ranjaku Matsumoto, and Ryaz and the others who had just joined. Countless beautiful women with hot bodies were laughing and playing around. Really, when I look back, things are still the same, but people have changed. When did my wives become so many? Dustless sighed and suddenly felt that time had passed so quickly. There are indeed a lot. The system consciousness Ling appeared in front of Dustless and nodded. Her phoenix eyes were filled with helplessness. She even suspected that her system world would explode because of Dustless's women if this continued. I've rested enough for a while, let's change to the next world. Although the corrupt life of drunken stupor was better than living immortals, after a long time, the warlike Dustless was tired and even a little annoyed. It's all ready. Ling gently waved her hand, and a dark space tunnel appeared next to her, twisting time and space as if the other side was another universe, and there was a strange atmosphere. I'm really looking forward to it. Standing up and moving around, Dustless strolled to the front of the space tunnel, threw away the blade of grass in his mouth, stared deeply at the women playing in the pond, and jumped in decisively. They got along very well, and there should be no possibility of a harem fire. What kind of world is that? Dustless glanced at Ling with interest and asked expectantly. It's somewhat similar to the world we're in now. Ling explained simply. Hearing this, Dustless frowned and fell silent. It seems that it's also a place where all kinds of gods walk around. After saying that, Dustless chatted with System Ling for a while, and after casually asking around, he jumped into the dark space tunnel. At the same time, in another world, dense forests covered the mountains and fields. As far as the eye could see, the entire world was made up of magnificent mountains and rivers. Immortal mist was faintly discernible, and the towering peaks were faintly discernible. The scenery was too beautiful to behold. Boom! An inexplicable loud noise came from the sky, and all the birds and beasts in the forest fled at the sound of the noise. The huge tremor tore apart the clouds and mist in the sky. In an instant, the sky was clear for thousands of miles. Ripples appeared in the void without any warning. The ripples expanded rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, they occupied a large part of the world. This kind of supernatural imagination is obviously not man-made. In other words, is this the god of disobedience? Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across the vast sky. Due to the speed of the wind, it was impossible to tell who the black shadow that was riding the wind was. Can you tear space apart? Who exactly was he? Which mythological system are you from? Don't disappoint me. The breeze stopped moving, and the vague voice became much clearer. It was pleasant to the ears, and it was most likely a young girl. Gotcha! A black hole was torn out of the void, and an afterimage fell out of it. You came out. It seems to be a god that I have never seen before. No matter which god you are, you dared to invade my territory. If I don't teach you a lesson, how can I establish myself in this world in the future? The pleasant voice sounded again. The goddess was slim and elegant, and her expression was indifferent as she stood in the void. Her beautiful eyes swept across the sky, and her dark eyes were majestic. Her whole body was shrouded in a sharp aura. Taking a closer look, the young girl was wearing a white traditional Chinese dress. Her delicate face was as delicate as a jade carving, flawless. Her tall nose was just right, and her delicate thin lips were like a blooming flower. Her silky black hair was braided into 3 braids and stood up. The girl was Luo Hao, who was at the top of the Junlin martial arts. At the same time, she was also the leader of the Saint sect. Just when she was sleeping comfortably, a loud bang came from the sky. The void was violently torn apart, and high-density energy swept across the sky. It was difficult for Luo Hao to sleep peacefully. This was the most blatant provocation. How could she turn a blind eye to it? Plop! The black shadow that fell out of the spatial tunnel just happened to fall into the pool. His body was dirty, as if he had been struck by lightning. His hair was messy like a chicken's nest, and his fair cheeks were also dark and swarthy. Damn, why am I so unlucky every time I transmigrate? If I don't encounter a spatial storm, I will be affected by all sorts of apocalyptic disasters in the universe. This is an unlucky year. The figure that fell out of the spatial tunnel was dustless. Even though he knew that he would encounter all sorts of disasters when transmigrating, and he was fully prepared, he still ended up in such a sorry state. Yo, you are that beggar who doesn't follow. Where did you come from? An afterimage flashed across the sky, and Luo Hao's figure appeared above Dustless's head. Her stern eyes looked at Dustless, and her delicate face was replaced with a strange expression. Beggar. With his old face twitching, Dustless stared at the floating girl with a gloomy expression. After staring at her for a while, he suddenly felt that she looked familiar. He thought of an extremely narcissistic girl and asked tentatively, Luo Hao, Great Sect Master Luo. Hearing this, Luo Hao's fair face flashed with astonishment and surprise. There were only a few people who could recognize her. You know this sect master. Could it be that you are my loyal fan? Chapter 1400. Dustless was speechless. Even though he knew that sect leader Luo was a little narcissistic, he did not expect it to be this exaggerated. How could a young lady like you, who was ignorant of worldly affairs and lived in the mountains all year round, have any fans? Give me a reasonable explanation, or else. Luo Hao aimed at a towering mountain in the distance and slapped it without hesitation. Boom! 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 A huge explosion resounded through the clouds. The majestic mountain instantly disintegrated, turning into thousands of particles that scattered in all directions. This was not a 100-meter-tall mountain, but a piece of soft tofu. Amazing! Dustless nodded secretly and could not help but give a thumbs up. He had a vague understanding of Luo Hao's strength. As one of the god slayers, she was not to be underestimated. Of course. Don't you know who I am? Hearing this, Luo Hao's eyes flashed with a smug look. Then, she remembered her business and said in an unfriendly tone, "However, you have not answered my question. I will give you 3 seconds. If you don't give me an explanation, I guarantee that you will suffer a fate worse than death." 3, 2, 1. She gathered a powerful force in her palm and was about to slap Dustless to death when an indignant voice suddenly sounded. "To tell you the truth, I am here to become your disciple because of your reputation." Dustless randomly found a lame excuse and put on a look of deep hatred. With a twisted face, he said hatefully, "My name is Dustless, and my mother was a witch. However, 4 years ago, she was unfortunately captured by the god slayer of Eastern Europe, Marquis Oban. He forced my mother and other witches to hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience. After the ritual was successful, my mother was buried with him. Even though I hate him to death, I am powerless to take revenge. After all, he is a legendary god slayer, and I am just a mortal. I heard that Marquis Oban and sect leader Luo Hao are old enemies, so I came all the way here to become your disciple." "I see. You want to use me as a tool to deal with that guy?" Luo Hao glared and asked in an unfriendly tone. She reluctantly accepted Dustless's explanation. "Marquis Oban did hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience 4 years ago and indirectly caused the deaths of many witches. Dustless's mother might be one of them. You should at least wait for me to finish." Dustless complained gloomily in his heart, but on the surface, his face was full of hatred. He said, "Cold Master Luo, you misunderstood me. I'm here to take you as my master. I only hope to learn a trade and take revenge in the future." Dustless was actually quite tempted by the Godslayer profession. Who wouldn't be tempted to kill a god and obtain their exclusive authority? Dustless had killed countless gods, but not a single one of them had obtained any authority. This world isn't bad. Who knows, I might be able to increase my strength. Dustless's eyes gleamed as he shamelessly acknowledged Luo Hao as his master. After all, Luo Hao had been a god-slayer for more than 200 years. Her knowledge in this area far exceeded that of a rookie like him. "You want to be my disciple?" Luo Hao suddenly understood. She held her ancient fan and lowered her white chin. She tilted her head and said, "This cult master is awe-inspiring. It's normal for you to recognize my strength. It's reasonable for you to take me as your master." Pooh. Dustless couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water. The corner of his eyes twitched. "Could you not be so narcissistic? You think I'm wrong?" Luo Hao's face darkened. She changed her attitude faster than flipping a book. Dustless instantly felt an invincible aura of Mount Tai pressing down on him. Although he wasn't afraid of Luo Hao at all, he still pretended to be fearful on the surface. "Sect leader Luo is right. You're absolutely right." With that, the girl's expression eased a little. "It's not a bad idea to take you as my disciple. Besides, I don't like that guy Warban. It's not a bad idea to find a disciple to beat him up. Anyway, I've been very bored recently and have a lot of time." It was obvious that Luo Hao and Warban were not on good terms, and their relationship was very bad. A gloating smile appeared on her beautiful face, as if she could already see Marquis Warban's future misfortune. She could not stop smiling. "In the end, you're just an innocent girl who doesn't understand the world." Quietly staring at Luo Hao's smile, Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. Just as he was about to ask some questions about the God Slayer, Luo Hao spoke first. She said with a look of disdain, "Let's go back to my place first. I can slowly teach you the techniques of battle. Also, take a good bath, or you'll stink my place." Dustless's entire body was black, and it even had a burnt stench. "That's true." Hearing this, Dustless nodded in agreement and dove into the water. The water rolled over his body, and in a short while, his black body recovered. This guy, even though Dustless was underwater, Luo Hao's clear eyes could easily see through the water. Dustless's appearance was clearly reflected in her eyes. The young man's face was like a crowned jade, with clear edges and corners. His deep and bright eyes were like the stars, shining brightly. The well-proportioned muscles on his chest were evenly distributed. The dustless underwater contained explosive power, completely ignoring the existence of resistance, just like a fish. Not bad, he's a promising talent. Luo Hao's eyes lit up, and she gave a rare look of praise. This disciple of hers seemed to have a much better future than Lu Yinghua. He exuded an indescribable free and confident temperament. Splash! Dustless jumped out of the water like a carp. He wiped the water off his face and stared at Luo Hao's slightly dazed face. He couldn't help but laugh inwardly. As expected, ugly faces have no rights. Handsome faces have a bright future. Could it be that my eyes were playing tricks on me? Luo Hao wiped the corner of his eyes and said in confusion. Just now, Wu Chen was still a mess. His face was black and his hair was messy. Now, after washing in the water, he looked brand new. He looked like two different people. Chapter 1401. Time flew by, and a day had passed in the blink of an eye. In Luo Hao's small nunnery, there were no luxurious furnishings that belonged to the modern world. Instead, they were all retro decorations. This can barely be considered her boudoir. Dustless smiled faintly. His eyes focused on Luo Hao, who was sitting in front of him. He asked the most important question, do I have a chance to become a godslayer? Everything else was trivial. This question was the most important. It did not mean that you could become a godslayer just by killing a god. That would at most be considered as having the title of a godslayer, but you would not be able to obtain their authority. There would be no point in killing a god. You can't. Luo Hao gave a short and straightforward answer. I understand your desire for revenge, but cultivation is a daily thing. Becoming a godslayer is even more illusory for you. You need a special medium. Hearing this, Dustless was refreshed. He asked expectantly, that is to say, as long as I find the medium, I can become a godslayer. That's right. Luo Hao nodded seriously and explained, I can teach you martial arts. If you practice for a long time, your strength will also be enhanced. My disciple Lu Yinghua is the same. Dustless nodded gently. It was a fact that martial arts could strengthen the body. Take Luo Hao's disciple Lu Yinghua for example. Even some godslayers were not as strong as him. Then learn martial arts. Dustless had no choice but to compromise and agree. Although martial arts were superfluous to him, it was not impossible to deal with Luo Hao. He still needed to get other information from her. Dustless already had a plan in mind to become a godslayer. The Prometheus Secret Manual of Kusanagi Protector was the best medium. He just needed to rob it. Come with me. Luo Hao said and turned to leave the nunnery. Teaching Dustless martial arts here was definitely not possible. The space was too narrow. She might tear down her house if she was not careful. On the spacious grassland, Luo Hao and Dustless stood side by side. In front of them were countless mountains, watch carefully. Luo Hao raised her palm once again. She raised her palm casually, and immediately, she slapped out with a seemingly weak and powerless palm. Boom! 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 In the distance, the mountain that was used as a target was instantly blasted into nothingness and razed to the ground. Try it now, Luo Hao ordered. With twitching lips, Dustless asked with a darkened face, you haven't taught me how to test it yet. Even though breaking a mountain was a piece of cake for him, why don't you teach me how to do it? You're right. Luo Hao suddenly understood. He did not expect to forget such an important matter. Soon after, his eyes narrowed into slits. He smiled cunningly and said, then I will seriously impart knowledge to you. First, you need a strong body. Otherwise, you won't be able to practice anything. That makes sense. Dustless nodded undeniably. The body was the capital of everything. It was the same no matter which world it was in. Without a body made of iron, it was possible to be KO'd by the enemy. Then I'll train you now. Luo Hao vanished in the blink of an eye. All that could be seen was a black shadow. When she reappeared, she was already right in front of Dustless and her fist was smashing towards him. Whoosh! Luo Hao thought that it would be easy to hit Dustless. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, Dustless actually dodged it? His reaction was so fast that even Luo Hao was stunned. Just like that. And what does this have to do with training the body? Dustless asked speechlessly. My direct disciples are trained like this. You are no exception. Raising her fist in a show of force, Luo Hao had a serious expression on her face. At the same time, she said in surprise, but then again, it's really surprising that you were able to dodge it just now. Dustless's expression inevitably stiffened. He quickly explained, my mother is a witch. She taught me basic fighting skills. My reaction speed is pretty good. I can see that. Hearing this, Luo Hao slowly nodded. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been blown away by her punch. However, Dustless was actually able to snatch it. It was really not bad. It's not over yet. Luo Hao shouted. She gently lifted her toes and her body completely ignored the existence of gravity. Like the wind, she floated in front of Dustless. Qinggong. That's not bad. Dustless praised. He calmly stared at Luo Hao's fist that was smashing towards him. He couldn't help but sympathize with Lu Yinghua. It was really a tragedy to have such a violent master. Whoosh! Turning his head indifferently, Dustless once again dodged Luo Hao's fist. Not only that, his right leg swept out. Bang! Luo Hao was immediately repelled by Dustless's kick. Although both of them had suppressed their strength to the limit, Luo Hao still felt that her arms were a little sore. Your strength is unexpectedly great. Your reaction is also like a monster. Not bad. Luo Hao stood with her hands behind her back and commented. She had a celestial aura and had the demeanor of a peerless master. Of course, I will take revenge in the future. Maybe the little universe will be. No, it will be my Dantian that will explode. Dustless quickly corrected himself. Unexpectedly, Luo Hao pursed her lips and smiled, which made him a little absent-minded. This master seems to be not bad. He looked at Luo Hao without batting an eyelid. Although she was a little violent, it was indeed for his sake. Although it was a little boring now, it wasn't bad. At least he wouldn't feel bored and impatient. Anyway, Dustless also needed time to understand this world. In the past, he had only seen it in novels and television. Now, he had to experience it for himself. Don't be in a daze during a battle. Luo Hao rushed out. Weak ripples gathered in her palm and aimed at Dustless's direction. Good timing. Luo Hao originally thought that Dustless would choose to slip away. This time, she was a little more serious and increased her strength. However, the reality was the complete opposite. Dustless took a few steps forward and threw out a punch without any fear. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Hao's palm shadow was immediately shattered. Chapter 1402. This time, it was sect leader Luo Hao's turn to be dumbfounded. Although she didn't use her full strength, Dustless still defeated her easily. Just how strong is this kid? Luo Hao said in disbelief. The afterimages of the exploding fists were especially eye-catching in her eyes. She locked onto Dustless suspiciously. Judging from Dustless's movements and speed, as well as his calm and confident aura, he didn't seem like someone who had practiced simple combat techniques. "If you don't come, then I won't hold back. 100 meters, 50 meters, 10 meters, 1 meter." The distance of several hundred meters was covered in just 4 to 5 seconds. It was unbelievably fast. Bang, bang, bang. A series of crazy explosions landed on Luo Hao's body, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. So soft. Dustless's punches suddenly landed on some awkward parts, and his attacks inevitably paused. That sinful touch made him want to stop, and his mind was shaken. He subconsciously retracted his arm, and his face turned green, indicating that he really didn't mean it. "Not bad. Why did you stop?" Luo Hao asked. She looked at Dustless, who had a conflicted expression, and was puzzled. "You didn't notice?" Dustless asked in surprise. He then heaved a sigh of relief. Perhaps it was because Luo Hao was so focused that she didn't realize that she was being taken advantage of by Dustless. Even though she said it wasn't intentional. In reality, what Dustless didn't know was that Luo Hao had also noticed that her chest had been attacked. However, she didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was inevitable. If they were really on the battlefield, it would definitely be a life and death battle. The winner would be the king, and the loser would be the bandit. It didn't matter what methods were used, as long as they could win. Therefore, Luo Hao didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, she was puzzled as to why Dustless had stopped attacking. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that Dustless had stopped attacking, Luo Hao darted dozens of meters away and pounced over like a gust of wind. Swish, swish, swish. Her jade-like leg swept out and kicked toward Dustless's shoulder. Due to her posture, the view under her skirt was undoubtedly revealed. Damn, it's actually black. Dustless's eyes lit up. He wanted to take a few more glances, but who would have thought that Luo Hao's small foot would kick over? Bang bang bang. Dustless, who was completely attracted by the scene that was not suitable for children, did not have time to defend himself and was sent flying back dozens of steps. That shouldn't be the case. Based on your strength, you should be able to withstand my attacks. Why were you pushed back by me? Luo Hao frowned in confusion. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed awkwardly and said seriously, "Horses make mistakes, and people make mistakes. This is very normal." "Is that the reason?" Luo Hao asked suspiciously. She stared straight into Dustless's eyes, only to see his gaze darting around, not daring to meet her gaze. Clearly, he had done something wrong. Could it be? Suddenly, Luo Hao realized why Dustless had shown such an expression when she kicked him. Her little face flushed red as she finally understood why Dustless had shown such an expression. He had obviously seen something he shouldn't have. Humph. With a heavy snort, Luo Hao's expression changed. She said helplessly in a loud voice, "As expected, being a heavenly beauty is also a sin. Even my disciple is infatuated with me." Plop. Dustless stumbled and fell. He thought that he was narcissistic enough, but he didn't expect that when compared to Luo Hao, he would instantly become a weak chicken that was not worth mentioning. However, this is a very good breakthrough point. With a wicked smile, Luo Hao clearly thought of some weird idea. She looked at Dustless with evil intentions and thought of a good way to forcefully increase his strength. She said, "Why don't we make a deal?" "A deal?" Dustless frowned and stared at Luo Hao, who was smiling evilly. He asked, "Tell me about it." "If you can." Staring at Dustless for a few seconds, Luo Hao said cheerfully, "If you can defeat me, I won't stop you from doing whatever you want to me. Moreover, I will choose to unconditionally comply with your conditions." F***ck. You actually came up with such a sinister move to encourage this father to improve. Dustless cursed in his heart. Looking at that exquisite body, he suddenly felt that he should use all his strength to crush Luo Hao. Ahem. We are currently in a master-disciple relationship. Dustless waved his hand to remind her. Luo Hao was quite good to him. If he used all his strength to defeat her because of this dirty thing, his status in Luo Hao's heart would plummet. There's nothing wrong with it. After all, the strong are respected in this world. As long as you are stronger than me, it doesn't matter what you do to me. After all, everyone is like this. The real strong will not be bored enough to understand the feelings of others. Luo Hao saw through it quite clearly. The law of the jungle is the essence of every world. However, Dustless just smiled and was not tempted. Perhaps he can defeat Luo Hao by using Rinnegan Sharingan and using powerful Genjutsu, but it is completely unnecessary. If he wins, will Luo Hao really obey him? Maybe she will really obey him, but one thing is certain, Luo Hao must be full of resentment toward Dustless. Deceiving a person who treats you sincerely, no matter who the person is, you can't let it go. Human beings are such emotional creatures. No matter who it is, they hate liars very much, including Dustless himself. Although the time they spent together is very short, Dustless has a good feeling about Luo Hao, so he chose to continue to hide his strength. When he understands the basic knowledge of this world, he will leave Luo Hao's Mount Lu. To seize Kusanagi Protector as a medium to become the God Slayer. As for what will happen to Kusanagi Protector in the end, it is not something that Dustless can manage. People are selfish, who cares about his life and death? Chapter 1403. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this time, Dustless had not left Luo Hao's Mount Lu, speeding up his learning of this world. His insatiable thirst for knowledge made Luo Hao shudder. But this was not the most perverted part. Bang! 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 A dull explosion was heard, and Luo Hao was forced to retreat. If she maintained the same strength as Dustless, Luo Hao would have no choice. She was no match for Dustless, and she would need to use more power to suppress Dustless. Dustless's recovery ability was an extreme existence that shocked the world. Sometimes, the injuries he suffered on the first day would be completely healed the next day. Of course, this was the result of Dustless deliberately delaying it. Based on his recovery ability with the body of 10 tails, he could recover in the next second. You have finished your apprenticeship, but it's a pity. Luo Hao sighed. Although Dustless's performance was very good, a God Slayer was a God Slayer, and a king was a king. Could a human surpass him just because he wanted to? It was obviously impossible, and Marquis Waban was an extraordinary God Slayer, so he had the most power among the God Slayers, which indirectly meant that he had killed the most gods. Dustless could fight a human alone, but he was still far from being able to kill a god. Are you sure you want to leave? Luo Hao asked, her eyes inevitably dim. I've disturbed you for more than a month. It's time to leave. Dustless stretched and nodded slowly. When he was bored, he secretly created the White Zetsu army to scout for information all over the world. Kusanagi Protector was about to set off for Sardinia. If Dustless was late, Kusanagi Protector would become a God Slayer ahead of time, and all his efforts would be in vain. Therefore, it was imperative to leave. As for Luo Hao, thinking of this, Dustless stared at the narcissistic girl. It was undeniable that she was extremely narcissistic and violent, but she was not as ferocious and terrifying as the world imagined. She was described as terrifying as a demon. In fact, Hierarch Luo would also show her cute side. Do you need me to send a disciple with you? No matter what, you are still their junior. Luo Hao suggested with a smile. In her eyes, Dustless would not be able to kill Marquis Waban even if he had 100 lives. I'm not a child who would get lost. Dustless curled his lips. He felt that Luo Hao was treating him like a child who had yet to grow up. Then you're on your own. Blinking his eyes, Luo Hao waved his hand and didn't stop him anymore. People had to spread their wings and soar. In Sardinia, Italy, a plane flew over from the distant horizon and landed safely at the airport. Passengers continuously disembarked from the plane. Dustless was also on this flight. It really does feel strange. The blue sky was cloudless, and the lazy and bright sunshine fell from the ninth heaven. Wu Chen subconsciously raised his right arm to block the sunlight, and he always felt a little uncomfortable. That's... Dustless shifted his gaze slightly and suddenly noticed a familiar figure. She didn't know anyone in this world. Since she knew this person, it meant that she was already very famous. At least, she had left a deep impression on Dustless in the original work. The girl was wearing a long red dress. Her blonde hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her delicate little face was outlined with a charming smile. Her deep eyes were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets. Is this Erica Browntree? Dustless was slightly stunned. After a while, he said the girl's name. He was secretly delighted. I came at the right time. If I was a little late, Kusanagi Protector might have beaten me to it. Let's go and summon her. After thinking for a while, Dustless walked over. Chapter 1404. Erica Brantley, a 16-year-old girl from Milan, Italy. She had the title of Crimson Demon. She was the daughter of the Brantley family, a renowned family in the magic circle. She was one of the few people who knew how Hutterly became Campione. Erica belonged to the Red Cross, an Italian magic association. She had the rank of a Grand Knight and the alias of Crimson Demon. Her favorite sword was Lion King's Heart. She had learned iron forging, a spell that could freely manipulate iron objects. She was good at creating, transforming, destroying, and strengthening spells. Her ancestor was Campione, the Demon King. Dustless lowered his head and thought carefully about the girl's knowledge as he walked. He was carrying a simple suitcase that Luo Hao had prepared for him in advance. Bam! Perhaps because he was too focused, Dustless accidentally bumped into something. Sorry, When he raised his head and was about to apologize, Dustless realized that the person he bumped into was Erica. At this moment, she was observing Dustless carefully with her watery eyes. Young man, be careful next time. It can be troublesome to find your luggage if you lose it in an airport. Erica smiled politely and picked up Dustless's suitcase that he dropped. Perhaps because the zipper of the bag was undone, Erica happened to see what was inside the bag. You do have a special hobby. There was nothing else in the bag except thick books about the myths of various countries and the stories of natural disasters. Sorry, my name is Dustless. Nice to meet you. Taking the bag, Dustless smiled politely. The latter nodded and introduced in a low voice, Erica Brantley. It's indeed her. Erica will probably run into Kusanagi Hutterly soon. I have to rob him of his Prometheus secrets. Dustless rolled his eyes and left the airport side by side with Erica. He asked with a smile, to be honest, I'm quite fond of the myths of various countries in the world. I'm visiting Sardinia because I want to learn more about the local myths. I can tell. Erica nodded, but she was still lost for words. Your backpack is full of books about mythologies. You didn't even bring basic clothes. How much do you like those mythologies? Dustless shrugged. Sorry, I'll be leaving first. As if she had found an acquaintance, Erica hurried over. Before she left, she turned around and gave a charming smile to Dustless. See you again. We'll definitely meet again. Dustless nodded. His short answer was filled with confidence. A king and a knight, are inseparable. What a strange fellow. Turning her head to look at Dustless, Erica felt that this guy was a little strange, but she couldn't tell what exactly. She had an indescribable feeling. In a dark corner. Caw caw caw. The white monster poked its head out from the ground and respectfully looked at the young man who had been waiting for a long time. It said respectfully, "Master Dustless, I have found the trace of Kusanagi Protector." "Well done, lead the way." Dustless nodded with satisfaction. He was determined to get Kusanagi Protector's Prometheus secret book. As for Kusanagi Protector himself, it was more suitable for him to be a human. After all, being a god slayer was a risky and dangerous profession. Kusanagi Protector didn't have as much experience as Dustless. Kusanagi Protector. You'll be a passerby in glory. In an alley with sparse people. The young man strolled forward and looked at the grimoire in his hand. It was left behind by his grandfather. The day before yesterday, he visited Sardinia to look for its owner. Whoosh! At this moment, two figures descended from the sky and blocked Kusanagi Protector's path. "Who are you?" Kusanagi Protector asked in confusion. He didn't know anyone in Sardinia. "Idiot, do you still need to ask?" "Of course, we robbed it. If you don't want to die, hurry up and give me the thing in your hand. Otherwise, I'll beat you until your mother doesn't recognize you." The people who blocked Kusanagi Protector's path were Dustless and White Zetsu. Hearing this, Kusanagi Protector's expression suddenly became silent, and his body involuntarily stepped back a few steps. "Still want to run?" Seeing this, Dustless couldn't help but sneer. Even gods couldn't run in front of him, let alone Kusanagi Protector, an ordinary human with a mortal body. Laser. A ray of light shot out from his fingertip, and the surrounding houses were attacked and suddenly collapsed, blocking Kusanagi Protector's path of retreat. White Zetsu. This kid doesn't seem to know what's good for him, you kill him. Without looking at Kusanagi Protector, Silver directly ordered White Zetsu to kill him. He couldn't talk to such a stubborn person, so he could only use force. Understood, Dustless Sama. White Zetsu nodded and then walked toward Kusanagi Protector, who was weak. It was a piece of cake to deal with him. "Who are you? Why are you robbing my grandfather's things?" Kusanagi Protector didn't give up and shouted. He tried to ask for help, but this place was like an isolated world. There was a dead silence, and no one responded to Kusanagi Protector. "It's too much for you to be a god slayer. Give it to Dustless Sama, and you will live in peace in the future." White Zetsu slowly walked toward him. Kusanagi Protector's face became more and more ugly. He couldn't accept giving his grandfather's relics to strangers. He couldn't cross the hurdle in his heart. Chapter 1405. Dustless didn't want to fight with Kusanagi Protector, so the name of bullying the weak was naturally replaced by Dustless by White Zetsu. "Yo!" White Zetsu approached Kusanagi Protector with a smile. His nondescript face was particularly terrifying. Gulp. Kusanagi Protector choked. To be honest, he was a little afraid of White Zetsu. After all, he had been living in human society. The two monsters in front of him did not belong to the category of human beings. One destroyed a building with a snap of the fingers, the other was White Zetsu. On the other hand, Kusanagi Protector was just a human. He was really a little surprised. "Don't come over." Kusanagi Protector was forced to the corner, and the retreat behind him had been blocked by the ruins, and there was no escape. Little brat who hasn't grown up yet. Dustless couldn't help but sigh. If he called out the grimoire, everything would be fine. Isn't it good to be a human being? What's more, with the character of Kusanagi Protector, the profession of God Slayer, which almost lived all day long, was really not suitable for him. Ow 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 ow. At the same time, the sky on the other side suddenly shook violently, as if the ancient murderers had awakened, and everything in the world was trembling. This high-density power, it must be the wild boar of the war god. Dustless's eyes showed a look of understanding. He felt this power carefully and nodded secretly. It was not bad, and it was stronger than he imagined. Do it, White Zetsu. Influenced by the power of the wild boar, Dustless couldn't wait to order. Give it. White Zetsu heard the words and directly rushed over. Who would have thought that at this moment, the turbulent hurricane suddenly hit, like a sharp blade. Pucci. 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 White Zetsu's body was immediately torn apart, and it was ruthlessly cut into pieces like meat. You are, witnessing such a scene, Dustless frowned and looked at it. In the tornado, a purple-haired boy with a cloak came into sight. He was quite similar to a god in Dustless's impression. Is this guy the god that Kusanagi killed? Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he still asked with uncertainty, that. Are you that, war god of the East, Welslana? Human. You actually know me. The purple-haired youth's bored eyes were filled with interest as he asked, what do you want? Are your subordinates planning to steal my slate? That's my slate. Dustless glared at him and corrected him. Then, he said gloomily, you're just a god. Listen up, if you don't want to die, get the hell away from me. What did you say? Did I hear it wrong? How dare you tell me to get lost? The purple-haired youth was stunned for a few seconds. Clearly, he was very surprised. This was the first time he had heard such a ridiculous phrase in his entire life. You didn't hear it wrong. I'll repeat it again. Get the hell away from me. Dustless repeated impatiently. He was just a god. How many gods had he killed? This kid was so stubborn. Dustless didn't mind adding another record of killing a god to his tally. You're just a human, but you're so arrogant. Welslana's young face trembled with anger. If Dustless didn't know about it, it would be fine. As a god, he could forgive the ignorance of a human. However, this guy had mentioned his name everywhere. Obviously, he knew that he was a god, but he still dared to be so arrogant and even told him to get lost. Welslana felt that his lungs were about to explode from anger. Human, use your blood to appease the anger of a god. Welslana roared with great majesty and vigor. Then, his body exploded with a towering aura. Caw caw caw. The aura of a god was extremely powerful. Even the ground around Dustless was tearing, and the houses were collapsing. However, Dustless's expression didn't change at all. If you want to kill me, then do it. Hooking his finger, Dustless said fearlessly, I don't care what relationship you have with this kid. The Prometheus secret book, in Kusanagi Protector's hands is mine. If you want to stop me, the only way is to crush you. For a god, Dustless really didn't care. Not to mention the other worlds in the past, even the world of the Demon High School, when he left, he killed all the mythological systems, and countless gods were killed. That's mine. Welslana's face twitched. This reckless human dared to openly steal a god's things. How could he tolerate it? If people knew about it, he would definitely become a joke in the mouths of all the gods. No, 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 shaking his finger, Dustless ignored Welslana's pale face. A faint light appeared on his body, and he turned into a divine rainbow that flashed gently. In the next second, he appeared in front of Kusanagi Protector. Welslana, you've got it wrong. If I want something, then it's mine. The previous owner of this book was at most you. The current owner is me. Rudely snatching the book from Kusanagi Protector's hands, Dustless looked down at Kusanagi Protector, who had a terrified expression, and said coldly, I will use my eye power to erase your memory of this period, and then give you a large sum of money. Live a peaceful life, Kusanagi Protector. The world of the God Slayer is not suitable for people like you to exist. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. You even dare to ignore me, a god. This speed. You have the qualification to be a demon king. He turned his head and looked at Dustless in surprise. Even Velaslana was unable to catch up with the speed of light. He smiled excitedly and said, very good, very good. Compared to this weak-looking kid, you are indeed more suitable to be a warrior. Even I could only vaguely sense the speed of the dark clouds. What he meant was that he allowed Dustless to get the Prometheus secret book. Chapter 1406. Dustless didn't even look at Velaslana. This kid was too narcissistic. The secret book of Prometheus had already injured him. Did he still need his permission? Dustless opened his Rinnegan and looked at Kusanagi Mamoru's eyes. Dustless activated his eye power and glanced at him gently. The male protagonist, who often had small outbursts, suddenly had a confused look in his eyes. The memory of this period would also be erased. The secret book of Prometheus would also be forgotten. He would also turn from the male protagonist to a passerby. Strange, where is this? After a while, Kusanagi Mamoru was confused. He stood up and looked at Dustless and asked embarrassedly, excuse me, where is this place? This is Sardinia, Italy. Dustless briefly explained. He was extremely calm about Kusanagi Mamoru's reaction. He also handed the bank card that Luo Hao gave him to Kusanagi Mamoru. The secret is 6 zeros, and there is 10 billion yen. This is what you got from participating in the public game. There is such a thing. Kusanagi Mamoru frowned. How come he didn't have any impression of this? In the end, a large amount of unfamiliar information poured into his mind. After a while, he thought that what Dustless said was true and left happily. Only the dumbfounded Velaslana was left behind. What is this situation? He doesn't remember me. Velaslana's expression was gloomy, and he didn't hide his disbelief. He then looked at Dustless and said in a hoarse voice, you are not an ordinary human. Where are you from? A god slayer. There are only 6 god slayers in the world. You don't seem to be one of them. There wasn't one before, but it won't be long before a new king will be born. And in a few days, there will be an unlucky god that will be killed by me. Dustless said with a playful face. He stroked the slate in his hand. Becoming a god slayer was close at hand. Which god is it? Velaslana asked. He felt that Dustless's strength was good. The unlucky god that was killed deserved his sympathy. I still don't know who it is. Pointing at his own head, Dustless said helplessly, oh. Your brain is so slow. The god that I'm about to kill, is you, god of war of the East, Velaslana. You're courting death. Hearing this, Velaslana's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He waved his hand and took out a golden sword. His body flashed, and the golden blade slashed towards Dustless's head. Die, human. Recalling Dustless's arrogance, Velaslana increased his strength. Naive. Dustless raised his foot indifferently, covered with armament hockey and glinting fruit ability. Dustless also kicked. Lightspeed kick. Clang. 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 Velaslana did not expect Dustless to be as fast as lightning. Even his strength was ridiculously strong. He was sent flying a few meters before he could stabilize his body. Although he was careless and did not use his full strength, it still showed that Dustless was not ordinary. Ha ha ha. Are you really human? I feel like you are a god. Your strength is ridiculously strong. Sure enough, it was right to give you the slate. Velaslana suddenly smiled like a madman. When he was about to attack again, a deafening sound spread throughout the world. Oh! The impact of the rage swept through the entire city. The buildings that were affected collapsed and turned into ruins and rubble. The strong vibration could be felt hundreds of meters away. This is, as if he realized something, Veleslana was overjoyed. When he was about to retreat, he suddenly stopped and asked, "Human, what is your name?" "Dustless." "Dustless." Veleslana murmured, then remembered it in his heart and said, "I will let you see the power of a god someday." After that, Veleslana disappeared. Dustless turned a deaf ear to Veleslana's domineering declaration. He carefully stroked the rough slate in his hand and felt the unusual fluctuation of power. He said happily, "This is the power of the white horse." No wonder he wanted the slate. Veleslana is very generous. He did not take the power of the white horse and gave it to me. Does he want to be defeated so badly and end the legend of invincibility? Dustless turned around and left with a smile. "That guy over there, stop. Give me the grimoire in your hand. Don't force me to attack. A normal human is not my match." Just when he was about to walk out of the alley, a red figure descended from the sky and blocked Dustless's path. The crisp and pleasant voice obviously belonged to a female. Her long blonde hair danced even though there was no wind. Her round little mouth opened and closed. Her skin was white and beautiful, and her gem-like eyes were shining. Her movements were strong and agile. She did not have the natural weakness of a female. "It's you." Dustless and the mysterious girl said at the same time. The girl who wanted to rob them was Erica, whom they met at the airport. She was pointing a small dagger at Dustless. "Why is it this kid? Why does he have such a precious grimoire?" Erica put down the dagger. She was also very surprised. After a few seconds of silence, Erica raised the dagger again and said seriously, "Even though we've met once, I still hope that you can give this grimoire to me." Allah, Allah. I didn't expect Miss Erica to have such an unknown side. "What will happen if I don't give it to you?" Dustless asked with a smile. He was not afraid of the shiny dagger at all. He said very politely, "Miss Erica, are you trying to force me to sell it? I really didn't expect you to have the talent to be a robber." "A robber?" Erica's lips obviously twitched. She explained in a more patient tone, "The thing in your hands is very dangerous, and it may cause a disaster. So, please give it to me for safekeeping. For that, I can satisfy all your conditions." Chapter 1407. Hearing that, Dustless shook his head. How could he give up something that he had spent so much effort to obtain? Absolutely not. "Sorry, Miss Erica, I can't do it." Dustless refused firmly and added, "This is very useful to me." "Useful to you?" This time, it was Erica's turn to be strange. She seemed to have thought of something and covered her mouth with her small hand. "Are you saying that you can use this grimoire?" "Of course." Dustless looked at Erica with clear eyes and nodded. "I have successfully usurped an authority." The authority that Dustless mentioned was actually the white horse, which was deliberately left behind by Veleslana. When it came to Dustless, it became his usurpation. After all, Erica didn't see it. "Are you sure?" Erica looked at Dustless suspiciously. This gigolo looked gentle and scholarly. The chance that he could kill a god was close to zero. "Absolutely." Blinking, Dustless said seriously, "Miss Erica, I have something else to do. Goodbye." Dustless passed through Erica's body. He really had something to ask Lucrezia Zola, the witch of Sardinia, a friend of Kazuichiro Kusanagi, the lord of Kusanagi Protectorate. With this stone slab, Wuchin could pretend to have a relationship and ask about some secrets. "Wait." Erica jumped and moved like a cunning rabbit. In an instant, she appeared in front of Dustless again. She opened her hands and continued to block Dustless's way unreasonably. The difference in her eyes is like night and day. Noticing the change in Erica's eyes, Dustless chuckled in his heart. This king is indeed an existence above human beings. The obscure look in Erica's eyes was obviously respect. This was normal. In today's world, including Dustless, who had just become one of the god slayers, there were only 7 of them. Almost every one of them had unparalleled power. Luo Hao was one of them. You want to be my follower? Dustless asked jokingly. Sure, but the scene of you robbing me just now left a bad impression on me, Miss Erica. Who wants to be your attendant? A stinky toad lusting after swan meat. In your dreams. Erica pouted her lips and refused decisively. This guy is too arrogant. How dare he look down on me? I have to suppress his arrogance. Otherwise, how am I going to live in the future? Erica slandered in her heart. Is that so? Then I'll take my leave. Unfortunately, Dustless shrugged and brushed past Erica. Stop right there. Erica shouted. She pointed at Dustless's nose and said with great displeasure, You can leave if you want, but leave the grimoire behind and I will not stop you. Otherwise, please. At the end of the day, you still want to follow me. Dustless threw his backpack to Erica casually and stretched as he walked. Help me carry my luggage, and I can forgive your recklessness. Plop. Erica staggered and almost fell. How could this guy be so shameless? As a lady, she didn't let him carry her luggage, but this guy took the initiative. Hurry up and call your maid. Take us to Lucrezia Zola's place. Dustless said as he walked. If he remembered correctly, Welslana would appear there. He had to hurry over and kill Welslana and become the real Godslayer instead of continuing to impersonate him. Maid? You mean Ariana? Erica walked to Dustless's side. In fact, when she heard that Dustless was willing to let bygones be bygones, she heaved a sigh of relief. Some kings were temperamental. Perhaps an inexplicable action would anger him, and then something bad would happen. He's here. The sharp-eyed Erica saw the red car approaching at high speed and heaved a heavy sigh. She was really afraid that this confused maid would get lost. To Lucrezia Zola's place. Dustless took the initiative to get in the car as if it was his own home. Ariana was speechless. She thought to herself, this guy is not polite at all. A rude guy who doesn't know how to take care of a lady. Angrily throwing the backpack to Dustless, Erica also got into the car and said softly, Ariana, do as he says. A few seconds later, the car sped toward Lucrezia Zola's house at a high speed. Obviously, this witch was quite famous. Erica knew more about her than Dustless, who knew nothing about her. There was still some distance before they reached Lucrezia Zola's place. Dustless took out the books in his backpack to pass the time. No matter how interested I am, I can't take the car without seeing. It's not good for my eyesight. Erica frowned. She was sitting right next to Dustless and could naturally see the words on the books clearly. Dustless simply glanced at her casually. His words almost made Erica breathless in frustration. I'm just choosing the power that suits me. Her lips twitching, Erica asked with a fake smile, So, you're choosing which god to kill? Do you think this is grocery shopping? In the end, Erica's tone was obviously several times higher than before. This guy's thoughts really gave him a headache. It was already a blessing from the heavens to be able to steal the authority of a god. To think that this guy had actually prepared a backpack full of mythological books. Moreover, they were all detailed introductions to the various gods. Could it be that he wanted to wipe out all the mythological systems? Yes, I'm indeed choosing, but it's really disappointing. There doesn't seem to be any suitable ones. Only Welslana's power is barely decent and suitable. Looking at the scenery outside the window, Dustless sounded more or less disappointed and gloomy. He suddenly felt that there were very few powers that he could use. He had most of them, and some of them were even better than those so-called gods. Erica pointed at Dustless. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Dustless' tone was clearly saying that as long as he had the right authority, it wouldn't be a problem no matter how many gods he had. Chapter 1408. Erica couldn't help but feel speechless. Dustless's frivolous tone was as light as a feather. The so-called god was like air, not worth mentioning and could be trampled on and bullied at will. Dustless didn't say much. It was superfluous to say this to Erica and he couldn't explain it clearly. There was a generation gap between two-dimensional creatures and three-dimensional creatures. We're here. About an hour later, Ariana woke up the sleeping Erica loudly. She was already lying limply on Dustless's body. Her sleeping appearance was very cute. Are we here? Rubbing her sleepy eyes, Erica's eyelids were still drooping. Clearly, she hadn't woken up yet and was still in a daze. I say, Miss Erica, you should be able to move your seat, right? Wu Chei's indifferent voice sounded. Hearing that, Erica was furious. This is my carriage. Where do you want me to move it? If anyone should move away, it should be you, brat. You want me to move my seat. Get this straight. Why am I sitting on your lap? Erica, who realized that she was in the wrong direction, exclaimed. She glared at Dustless with a face full of indignation, instinctively thinking that this sinister bad boy was playing tricks on her. However, before she could make things difficult for Dustless, a voice that exposed her was heard. It wasn't Dustless but her maid, Ariana. Miss Erica, you rubbed yourself on him. Dustless even pushed you during that time, but you were like gummy candy. Speaking of this, Erica's little face was as red as an apple. Dustless's teasing gaze made her feel numb all over. She wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Don't tell me this guy used witchcraft to confuse me. Erica thought gloomily. She wasn't like this in the past. I don't see any new faces. A black cat was lying leisurely on the wall. Its gaze swept across them one by one until it landed on Dustless or the slate in his hand. A strange look flashed across its eyes. A talking black cat. Erica and Ariana were both stunned as they stared at the black cat in disbelief. My apologies for the sudden interruption, Miss Corazia Zola. Dustless introduced himself politely and said, to be honest, my friend's grandfather asked me to deliver this grimoire. He could just make up a random reason, as long as it was plausible. What a complicated relationship. Anyway, please come in first. The black cat licked its paws, even though the door had opened by itself, revealing a pitch-black corridor. Is this really your grimoire? Erica questioned again. In fact, they had learned about the Prometheus secret manual before. Although the intelligence said that the person was also an East Asian, his appearance was far from Dustless's. It's definitely me. Dustless patted his chest and said calmly. The real Kusanagi protector had been sent home by him, and his memory was erased. Now, that majestic posture was probably happy to count money. Creak. He followed the black cat all the way here and finally followed it up the stairs. On the sofa, a young woman wearing stockings and suspenders came into view. She was lying on her side. Isn't this your friend's grandfather? Why is he so young? Erica was speechless as she stared at Corazia Zola. She looked so young as if she had regained her youth. Dustless took a few steps forward and handed the slate to Corazia Zola. You should be familiar with this grimoire, right? More than familiar with it. I gave it to Ichiro. Corazia Zola's eyes flashed with nostalgia and the vicissitudes of life. She shook her head and said, "This grimoire is yours from now on. Leaving it with me will only cause endless trouble. I don't want to be the target of public criticism. Young man, it's yours." Why did Dustless find trouble with Kusanagi Protector? It was because of this slate. Therefore, for ordinary people, obtaining the slate would not bring them any benefits. Instead, it might cause them to be killed. And Corazia Zola looked at Dustless in surprise and said in surprise, "God seems to approve of you. Is there really the power of God?" Erica's eyes widened and her lips trembled. She thought Dustless was just bragging. She did not expect it to be true this time. So this guy succeeded in killing a god. Looking at the calm Dustless, Erica envied him from the bottom of her heart. Although she was a genius, all geniuses paled in comparison to God. In this world, there were too many things that geniuses could not do. For example, killing a god was something that 99% of humans could not do. Ah. Young man, you are not only handsome but also capable. You are so fascinating. I would love to have a good night with you. Corazia Zola swung her long legs and purposely exposed some of her private parts. Dustless was blind. Even Erica blushed, let alone a man. What a pervert. As if she had seen something dirty, Erica hurriedly turned her head to hide her embarrassment. She subconsciously looked at Dustless, but this guy was as calm as a steel mask. Wells Lana. That guy is so arrogant. He actually dared to give me his power. After a while, Dustless's words stunned Erica and Corazia Zola. They asked at the same time, "You haven't killed a god yet, but you've gained the power of a god?" "Indeed. That self-righteous god gave it to me for free." Dustless shrugged and told them the truth. "But it doesn't matter. Wells Lana will soon become a thing of the past. You are so charming that even God is willing to give you his power. This is so unfair to those hard-working god slayers. Others relied on their strength to make a living. When it was Dustless's turn, god slayers came to him voluntarily. Was he relying on his face to make a living? Chapter 1409. Face Recognition. Dustless sneered. That brat Wells Lana was trying to get himself killed. He purposely gave the privilege of the white horse to Dustless in the hopes that Dustless could defeat him. All in all, this grimoire belongs to you in the future. Look, Corazia waved her hand as if Prometheus's secret grimoire was an unlucky star. Do you think you can take it back? Dustless rolled his eyes. He didn't need anyone's permission to do such a thing. Oh. What an unruly brat. You don't even know how to be polite. Look, Corazia stood up and pointed at the room at the end of the corridor. She didn't care that her hot body was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It's late. You two can sleep in that room tonight. No problem. Dustless nodded and walked over with the grimoire. No, how can I sleep in the same room with him? Erica raised her hands in apology and complained, "How can a lady sleep with an unruly? Then you can sleep on the sofa, Miss Erica." Dustless glanced at the arrogant Erica and interrupted her rudely. He shrugged and said, "I like to sleep by myself. Goodbye." You. Erica stomped her feet in anger. She didn't expect Dustless to be so unreasonable and barbaric. He didn't even have the most basic gentlemanly demeanor. In the end, she had no choice but to follow Dustless. Is your brain made of stone? Erica mumbled after she caught up with Dustless. Someone like me, I'm a snobbish person. You'll kick me out if I talk about gentlemanly. Dustless said rudely. Only an idiot would sleep on the floor instead of the bed. Wells Lana will be fighting another god tomorrow, right? I need to rest up for now. Staying here was just waiting for Wells Lana to come knocking on his door. After all, the chances of finding these gods were slim. The only way was to wait for them to come knocking on his door. Creak. She gently pushed open the bedroom door. The room that greeted her eyes was rather simple. Other than a bed and the necessary dressing table, there seemed to be nothing else. Go to sleep. Dustless pointed at the soft mattress and turned to leave. Are you planning to sleep on the sofa? Erica asked after a moment of surprise. She was even prepared to sleep on the floor. After all, there was only one empty room here. You believe the words of that witch? Dustless curled his lips and asked disdainfully. How could such a large castle only have one bed? Go ahead and sleep. If you don't have a place to sleep, I'll take Lucurasia's room for myself, Dustless said casually. Poochie. Erica couldn't help but smile when she heard that. After glaring at Dustless, she blushed and said, We're outsiders after all. Guests should follow the host's wishes. Let's rest together today. Dustless was taken aback. Soon after, he asked maliciously, Aren't you afraid that before you do anything perverted to me, I'll definitely kill you? Erica warned fiercely. Her tone was a little awkward. Although she said it casually, she couldn't calm down for a long time. Who would be able to let go of a man and a woman alone in a room? Especially now that she and Dustless had only met once. If it were someone else, it would be hard for them to accept it. I'm going to take a shower. Dustless stretched himself and said lazily. When he was about to open the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. That witch's personality is similar to that of the witch, and she acted so quickly. Mr. Godslayer, don't speak to me in such a resentful tone. I'm doing this for your own good. That little girl has a powerful background. She's your only knight. You have no conscience. You should thank me. Lucurasia said in a resentful tone as if she were a wronged wife. Dustless felt a chill run down his spine. Do you mean I should thank you? Dustless resisted the urge to rush out of the door. He said in a low voice, Your kindness is really unflattering. He might be misunderstood as a pervert or a pervert. Ah. That's not something I can control. Take care of yourself, young man. In my opinion, you and Kusanagi both have the potential to be playboys. Good luck. Lucurasia twisted her snake-like waist and left with a smile on her face. Ahem, Erica coughed dryly. She sorted out her thoughts and said, We do need to have a good talk. Talk. Dustless, who was in a dilemma, had to sit down on the ground. He curled his lips and said, Miss Erica, I don't think I need your help. As a god slayer, I'm the most desirable one for you sorcerers. Why is this guy so? Erica found herself speechless. She didn't have the right to negotiate with Dustless. She didn't even have a bargaining chip. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Dustless leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. After a while, he started snoring. This guy is really good at pretending. I've never heard of anyone who could sleep standing up. Erica snorted, looking as if she couldn't be fooled. When she was about to expose Dustless, she suddenly caught the mischievous smile at the corner of his mouth, which gave her the creeps. Erica's idea of teasing Dustless vanished. She might even lose her life. There was no need to take the risk. This guy was so weird sometimes. She'll probably come tomorrow. Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. He muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Chapter 14:10. Erica had to admit the cruel truth. If you didn't kill the gods, it didn't mean that the gods wouldn't kill you. If the two gods fought, the island would collapse. No one would be able to stay out of it. As the saying goes, when the immortals fight, the mortals suffer. Are you two still going to stop me? Dustless asked while lying in Erica's arms. You. Lucrezia sighed. She had to admit that Dustless was telling the truth. Erica was also speechless. She clenched her delicate hand into a fist. However, in Dustless's eyes, it looked extremely fragile. This world was just so cruel. Humans were as insignificant as grains of sand. Even if thousands of them died, the gods wouldn't be moved. They were just ants in the end. I'll go with you. After a few seconds of silence, Erica said with determination, You once said that the king and the knight will never be separated. What a stubborn girl. Hearing this, Dustless broke free from Erica's arms. Under Lucrezia's shocked gaze, Dustless wasn't bound by the law of gravity at all. He flew up with Erica like a ghost. How did this guy do it? He only has the white horse power of Wells Lana. Where did this power of flight come from? Lucrezia asked with her beautiful eyes wide open. Due to the excessive shock, her magnificent cleavage was swaying back and forth, as if it was about to explode. Pervert. Erica snorted and glared at Lucrezia. Her angry eyes were obviously saying, How dare you seduce my king in front of me? You'll be here for a few days. Ah. Young people nowadays are so petty. Good things should be shared. Lucrezia chuckled. Erica's red face was quite cute. She couldn't help but tease. Goodbye. Wuchen turned into a rainbow light and disappeared into the horizon, like a meteor gradually disappearing into the eye socket. After Dustless left, Lucrezia mumbled to herself, What a powerful and mysterious brat. This guy probably still has great strength. Maybe he can really slay a god and become a new surpasser. She suddenly felt that this boring world was much more interesting. How confident are you in taking down Mercado? Erica asked worriedly. After all, the opponent was a legendary god, and Mercado was not an ordinary god, but one of the strongest gods in Mediterranean mythology. How much? Dustless chuckled as if he had heard the funniest joke. You should be worried for Mercado. You should know that there isn't a suitable coffin on this island for him to use. Erica stared at Dustless angrily. He was about to become an enemy of a god, but this guy still looked so frivolous as if he was bullying a hooligan. Erica. The so-called gods are just a group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. There is no need to worry. Mercado is no match for me. Besides, he is not the only one who will die today. Dustless said ambitiously. Gods were superfluous. He had made up his mind to kill every god he saw in the future. He would purify the air. Stop right there, you idiot. Seeing that the distance between him and Mercado was getting closer and closer, Wuchen raised his head and shouted. He didn't care about the existence of the storm, Your head is mine. After saying that, Dustless launched an attack with peerless power. A large amount of golden light appeared in his mythology, and some kind of power swept out from it. A mere human dares to stop the steps of a god. How dare you, a puny existence, speak rudely and call me a big guy? Mercado stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked at Wuchen. His eyes were frightening. Oh. It seems that you have some skills. This trick is not something that a normal human can have. Mercado looked up at the golden light above Dustless's head. Countless weapons were aimed at him. The momentum was quite huge. Gulp. What kind of god's power is this? Erica was also dumbfounded. Looking at the various divine weapons above Dustless's head, she was in a daze. It was the first time she had seen so many divine weapons. This is my king's treasure. The monarch's treasure contained many peerless weapons that could suppress a deity. Wuchen did not say much as he explained indifferently. Have a good taste of the rain of bullets. He raised his arm and lowered it gently. Countless divine weapons shot out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Without exception, they all pierced mercilessly toward Mercado. There were so many of them that it was like a rainstorm. The dark night sky was suddenly dyed golden. Humph, I am a god. How can I be hurt by weapons made by humans? Mercado snorted disdainfully. His weapon, which was as thick as a scepter, swept out. Bang bang bang. All the weapons that fell down were scattered. They fell to the ground like scrap metal. The momentum of this magnificent attack was high, but the power was not impressive. You want to kill a god with this embroidered pillow? Human, there is something wrong with your head. Mercado sneered. He raised his strong arm and was about to wave the weapon in his hand to kill Dustless. However, he was surprised to find that his right arm could not move. He turned his head and saw that his right arm had been bound by an iron chain. This is really boring. Is the so-called god only at this level? He is as weak as a child. He doesn't even have the fighting spirit to move me. Chapter 14:11. Mercado looked at the iron chain wrapped around his arm. It was shiny and the surface looked like it was plated with gold. It looked very solid and hard. When did this guy attack? Why didn't I feel anything? Mercado murmured as he looked at Dustless. He pondered for a few seconds and asked, was the attack just a distraction? Your real purpose was to control me with this chain. When he was facing Dustless's attack, he was tense and didn't care about other aspects. Deceiving others. Stop trying to justify yourself. I didn't expect a god to be so thick-skinned. Mercado, you think too highly of yourself. Dustless said with disdain. There was no need to sneak attack Mercado. This guy was a big guy and his reaction was like a turtle. It was easy to deal with him. He could just use his advantage of speed to suppress him. Humph, puny human, do you think you can control me with this kind of scrap metal? Mercado sneered as he pointed at the light falling from the ground. It was obviously the weapon just now. He said with disdain, this broken weapon is a lesson. For a god like me, breaking it is just a small matter. As soon as he finished speaking, Mercado raised his sturdy arm and used all his strength to smash Dustless. Boom! The strange weapon also tilted down. The moment it was about to hit Dustless and Erica, Mercado's arm stopped above Dustless's head. What's going on? Erica was puzzled. She took the initiative to leave Dustless's side. She looked at it from another angle and found that Mercado was tightly bound by the previous chain. It was impossible to attack Dustless. A weapon that can bind a god. Is there such a powerful weapon in the world? Erica was quite confused. She was a knowledgeable person, but she had never heard of such a weapon. Compared to good separation sword, I trust Heavenlock more. Especially for you so-called gods. Heavenlock is simply a natural enemy to deal with you. Dustless explained softly. The moment Mercator was lifted up by the Heavenlock, it meant that the outcome of the battle had been decided. His identity as a god had become his greatest disadvantage. The higher the divinity, the greater the effect of the Heavenlock. Tailor-made to deal with a god. That's the mortal enemy of the gods. Erica covered her mouth in shock, fearing that someone else would see her shock. You've comprehended it very quickly. That's what I meant. Dustless nodded faintly. To a certain extent, the heavenly lock was the natural enemy of God. Humph, funny. Mercado coldly snorted and laughed sarcastically. God's natural enemy. You're just a human. What do you take God for? This is blasphemy. If that's the case, then you can try to struggle out. Dustless calmly said. Meerkat wasn't strong but his temper wasn't small. I'll destroy this broken chain right now for you to see. Mercado clenched his left hand into a fist. His eyes locked onto the long chain of Heavenlock, and he immediately used all of his strength to attack it. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of the explosion spread throughout the night. The violent fluctuations dug a deep hole in the ground, but the Heavenlock was still safe and sound. There wasn't a single scar left on it. How can there be such a weapon in the world? Meerkat said with a pale face. If the Heavenlock existed, wouldn't it mean that Dustless was invincible? It would be easy for him to deal with any god. Go to hell now. He glanced at it lightly. The void trembled slightly, and a strange spiral-shaped sword swept out. It was dark red in color. The moment it appeared, the void became solemn. To be able to die under this parting sword, it's not a disgrace to your name as a god. Dustless coldly stared at Meerkat. Such a big guy didn't seem to have any outstanding power. He would just kill him. Out of sight, out of mind. This is parting sword, How can you have such a thing? Erica raised her voice several times. Her tone sounded sharp. You know it. Dustless was surprised. Explain it to me. Of course I know it. How can I not know such a famous divine weapon? Don't underestimate me. Erica rolled her eyes at Dustless and said in detail, parting sword, is believed to originate from Enki, the great god of Mesopotamia and Babylonia mythology. It is the narrative poem of the creation of Babylonia mythology. It is even rumored that this sword has the power to cut the world. By the end, Erica was already in a mess. The way she looked at Dustless had changed. It was as if she was looking at a super monster. First, he took out the Heavenlock that could bind all gods. Then, he took out the parting sword, that could destroy the world. How could the other god slayers survive? What is the background of this kid? Are these all usurped powers? Erica asked suspiciously. She was curious about Dustless's mysterious identity. Her unblinking eyes made Dustless feel uncomfortable as if she had discovered a new continent. It can indeed cut the world. As the host of Wang Kaibao, Dustless naturally knew the power of parting sword, He had used it before and could easily cut the entire world. And the stronger the host was, the stronger the power of parting sword, would be. Now you can die in peace, my Lord God. Dustless raised the parting sword, and smiled. The word Lord God was full of endless ridicule, as if deliberately saying, so what if you are a god? You are still a clown who can't resist. A Heavenlock and an extra parting sword, was solved. Chapter 14:12. It was not that Dustless was looking down on Mercado, but the two weapons, parting sword and Heavenlock, were more than enough to deal with him. Other weapons were simply superfluous. Disappear. After saying that, Dustless swung the parting sword in his hand. The crimson, violent air waves raged on the front end of the big sword. Crack. 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 A very discordant sound came from the void. The crisp sound was depressing. The vast sky was as fragile as vegetables and fruits, and obvious cracks could be seen. Damn it. Mercado was full of regret. He tried his best to escape from the absolute restraint of Heavenlock. However, the iron chain, which was only as thick as his finger, was harder than anything he had ever seen in his life. He could not shake it. Poof! Mercado, who could not move his body to avoid the attack, was instantly severely injured. His abdomen was directly penetrated. The huge wound, which was 5 or 6 meters long, shattered his internal organs. He could even see the world on the other side through the wound. So powerful. He killed Mercado, one of the strongest gods in the Mediterranean Sea, with just one simple move. Erica's mind was in turmoil. Looking at Mercado who had been killed, she suddenly had the illusion that God was just an acquaintance of hers. He could easily crush Mercado with just one move. After being stunned for a while, Erica floated to Dustless and asked excitedly, "Did you succeed? Did you succeed?" Hearing that, Dustless just shook his head indifferently. He did not even look at Mercado's body. It was worthless and had no power to shine. "You have been hiding for so long. Are you still not coming out?" Ripples appeared in the sky. Dustless's voice spread far and wide. "Someone is here." Erica immediately picked up her sword and stood in front of Dustless, full of vigilance. She looked around like a bodyguard. In Erica's words, a knight's duty was to protect the king. "He has been observing for a while. I thought that when I killed Mercado, he would come out to stop me. After all, it was his gift." As he spoke, a purple-haired youth with a cape also floated into the sky. His calm eyes met Dustless's gaze. Even though he hid it well, the twitching corners of his eyes could still tell that the youth was not calm. The god of war of the East, LoveLore. Dustless squinted his eyes slightly, and a hint of joy flashed across his brows when he recognized the identity of the young man. Dustless subconsciously touched the stone slab in his arms. For Dustless, LoveLore was far more tempting than Mercado. In Dustless' eyes, the two were not even comparable. "You're really surprising." LoveLore lowered his head. He had just witnessed the battle between Dustless and Mercado. Instead of calling it a battle, it was more like bullying a primary school student. "But I'm sorry, I'm not that stupid. If you want to kill me, you can't do it, young man." LoveLore's tone gradually became cold. Compared to the last time they met, this time his tone was obviously heavier. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning suddenly flashed in the sky, and the thick lightning struck mercilessly toward Dustless and Erica. "Small tricks, use your own strength to deal with yourself." Dustless smirked. At the same time, he picked up the stone slab and aimed it at LoveLore in the sky. "Don't mess around. If you use that magic book without permission, you may lose your life. I will not allow you to do so." "Never." Erica stood in front of Dustless and said sternly. "A human's body would definitely die after using the stone slab. Do you still think I'm a human?" "Erica." Dustless did not fight back. He pulled her to the side and aimed the stone slab at LoveLore. He smiled and said, "This reckless guy is very arrogant. He deliberately left his power on the stone slab in the hope that I can defeat him. For this, he did not hesitate to give up his power. You are indeed very strong. I have to say, I did underestimate you before." Golden light floated in his hand, and a golden sword appeared in LoveLore's hand. For some reason, he suddenly regretted giving his power to Dustless. This kid was a dangerous person with extraordinary strength. "If I don't use it, it would be a pity." Dustless's eyes lit up. He made up his mind to use the stone slab, and suddenly a large amount of white light shot out. "Come and see, I will not lose to my own strength." LoveLore roared. He held the sword with both hands and looked down at Dustless, or rather, at his stone slab. What a crazy man. Seeing this, Erica sighed softly. She moved closer to Dustless's face and sneaked a kiss on Dustless's face while he was in a daze. She left a kiss mark on his face. The awkwardness and discomfort on her face disappeared completely. Erica said seriously, "This is a reward from a beauty to a hero. I just want to say that I've been taken advantage of by you. I'll definitely take it back in the future." Dustless stared at Erica's curvaceous body and said, "Roar! Roar! Roar!" A majestic and scorching roar came from within the stone slab. Then, a large ball of golden flames whizzed out from within the stone slab. A large white horse made entirely of flames rushed into the sky, its entire body burning with extremely hot flames. Boom! 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 Wells Lana, who liked to fight head-on, was determined not to retreat. He focused on the incoming flame and raised his golden sword without hesitation. However, hope was beautiful, but reality was cruel. Wells Lana was immediately dealt a fatal blow. A pillar of fire pierced through him. Chapter 14:13. The flaming horse hit Wells Lana without any surprise. Perhaps this guy wanted to test the power of his clone, so he didn't even try to dodge. With the golden sword in his hand, he took it head-on. You think I'll lose to my clone? In your dreams. Bathed in the flames, Wells Lana's arrogant personality didn't change. Although he was still uncomfortable from being roasted, as time went on, he slowly got used to it. Sure enough, you can't trust other people's moves. With a light sigh, Dustless turned into a stream of light and disappeared, pouncing out at the speed of light. So fast. Wells Lana's pupils shrunk. He subconsciously picked up the golden sword, but he felt that his hands were empty. He subconsciously looked at his right hand. Ugh! Where's my golden sword? Wells Lana said angrily. In the blink of an eye, his golden sword disappeared without him knowing. Could it be that Dustless stole it? Erica sharply guessed that this was the most likely possibility. The Prometheus secret book was used to steal the power of a god. Maybe the attack just now was just a cover, and this guy's real goal was to steal the golden sword that could split a god's divinity. Erica thought to herself as she looked at the light floating in the sky with anticipation. Buzz buzz buzz, in the sky, the light gathered, and a human figure appeared. The golden light was compressed into Dustless's back, and he was holding a golden sword in his hand. TSK, Wells Lana, thank you for your generosity. Jiang, don't you think this, golden sword, and my, Heavenlock, are perfect together? One can split a god's divinity, and the other can bind all gods. Touching the golden sword with satisfaction, Dustless didn't care about Wells Lana's gloomy expression as he talked to himself. Don't be too arrogant, human. Wells Lana roared. His face twisted as he said coldly, it is indeed praiseworthy that you can steal my power, but that's only one of my many powers. It's not worth mentioning. Boom. 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 As soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Boundless lightning poured down in torrents and all of them landed on Dustless's head. How can such a weak attack work on me? Looking up at the falling lightning, Wu Chen sneered disdainfully. Several black balls emerged from his body, which then turned into a circular shield to protect Dustless. The truth-seeking jade is not something that can be broken by such an attack. Dustless, who was inside the enchantment, was safe and sound. He could hear the loud explosion of the lightning striking the truth-seeking jade, but Wells Lana was probably very depressed. Even if he stood there and let him hit him, the defensive barrier of the truth-seeking jade was not something that could be easily broken. Even a god was no exception. Damn, why is the tortoise shell so hard? Wells Lana tried his best to summon lightning. Lightning filled the air under the stormy night sky, but when it landed on the defensive barrier of the truth-seeking jade, it was unable to move at all. This guy is a bit strange. I must take back the powers of the white horse and golden sword. Wells Lana clenched his fist and made up his mind. At the same time, he heard a crisp cracking sound. Looking at the source, the truth-seeking jade's impenetrable exterior started to show signs of cracking. The attack worked. Wells Lana's face was filled with anticipation. Stupid, don't you know? I purposely released the defense of the truth-seeking jade, not your attack. Otherwise, how could I fight back? Dustless stepped out, and a large amount of light gathered at the tip of his foot. He lifted his foot slightly, and then a vast amount of light poured out and rushed toward Velaslana in a straight line. Light speed kick. The light disappeared quickly and came quickly. When Velaslana realized the danger, it was already too late. The golden light had already swallowed him completely. Boom! 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 A series of explosions rose into the air, and the place where Velaslana was standing became a huge flaming mushroom cloud. He was also affected, and his whole body was emitting black smoke. One could even smell the smell of barbecued meat that was filled with the smell of fire. Ugh! Ugh! Smelling this disgusting seven tails, Erica's power started to churn. She couldn't help but feel disgusted. She knew that Velaslana was burning. Barbecued God. Erica started to admire Dustless's courage. She thought to herself, this guy is definitely not a normal human. It's just that there's no magic in his body, and this powerful strength doesn't seem to belong to a god. This means that it's his own strength. Erica's eyes turned and revealed a wise and intelligent expression. I remember that among the few god slayers, only Jiangnan heroine Queen Luo Hao and Dustless's type are quite similar. Also, their names seem to belong to China. Could it be that the two of them have some kind of relationship? It was just as Erica guessed. Dustless and Luo Hao did have some kind of relationship. They were master and disciple type. You've committed a capital crime. I'll kill you. Velaslana's furious roar came from the rolling, blazing fire. He never realized that he wanted to kill so much. He was in a terrible state because he didn't have a car. His hair was even set on fire. Although he put it out in time, it was still as messy as a chicken's nest. His face was also black, like a coal miner who had just come out of a coal mine. His whole body was dirty, and he didn't have the image of a god. People who didn't know him might think that he was a beggar. However, Dustless turned a deaf ear to Velaslana's clamor. He focused on touching the golden sword. After a while, his eyes flashed with excitement. I'll use you to test its power. Chapter 14:14. This guy wants to use me as a whetstone. Seeing through Dustless's intentions, Velaslana's face suddenly trembled violently. He felt a great sense of humiliation. If he was killed by Dustless using his weapon, where would he put his dignity as a god? Although his dignity had been trampled on, he still had to make Dustless pay with his blood to wash away the humiliation. Aren't you very fast? Open your eyes and watch. Velaslana shouted as he pointed at the sky with one of his arms. Then, a big red bird circled in the sky. Is that a phoenix? Dustless frowned as he locked his eyes on Velaslana. He knew the ability of this power, which could allow him to surpass his opponent's speed for a short period of time. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As expected, a gust of wind swept up from Velaslana's body, and then his entire body disappeared as if he had teleported. Bang! Dustless suddenly felt a strong attack on his chest. He reached out and touched it. His body was broken, and there was a huge fist mark. What's going on? The sneak attack was successful. Velaslana quickly retreated. He thought that Dustless would be severely injured. Who would have thought that he would be fine after being punched by him? The wound was only covered with golden light. What a strange ability. How many gods did this kid kill? If I knew that he had such terrifying potential, I wouldn't have given him the white horse. What a shame. Velaslana was extremely gloomy. He finally understood the pain of overdoing it. It was all his own fault that he ended up in this situation. But don't think that this is over. I won't give up so easily. Velaslana clenched his teeth stubbornly. He would never back down. Roar, roar, roar. The divine beast's roar echoed in the sky. Dustless looked up and saw a majestic bull standing in the sky. Bull. Activating this ability. The host's strength seems to increase. Staring at Wellislana's fist that had countless veins popping out, Dustless still responded calmly without changing his expression. Did he need to be afraid of elementalization? There was no need at all. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Wellislana was as fast as lightning, and it was impossible for ordinary people to catch him with their naked eyes. They could only vaguely feel that the black shadow was rushing toward Dustless at an extraordinary speed. Got it. Wellislana, who was very close to Dustless, roared, and his fist containing explosive power whizzed out and blasted towards Dustless. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless instantly exploded, turning into a myriad of photons that scattered to every corner of the sky. They were like countless fluorescent fireflies. Dustless. Erica's eyes widened, and her voice was filled with sorrow. Dustless's figure and scent had disappeared without a trace, as if he had been killed by a single punch. He had completely perished. Humph, I killed him. Don't worry, as a god, I'm very merciful. I'll immediately send you to the underworld to continue your predestined relationship. Thank the greatness of the gods. Wellislana spoke in an extremely arrogant tone, as if he was looking down on everything in existence. He can't be dead. Erica held the western sword in her hand, and her determined eyes were as bright as the stars. What an eyesore, even a human can be such an eyesore. How annoying are you? Wellislana said in disdain. Both of you can die together, this script is perfect. After saying that, he swooped down like a swallow. Erica's eyes were also determined, and her gaze that saw through life and death was moving. Humph, a mere human dares to be so arrogant in front of a god like me, this is blasphemy. You and that man just now both deserve to die. Wellislana's whole body was stinging. Thinking of being roasted like livestock by Dustless, he was filled with resentment. A god was not a chicken, duck, goose, or fish. Now his old face was still burning in pain, and his dignity was trampled on by Dustless. He was especially depressed. Both of you disappear together, and the humiliation I suffered today will be washed away, human. After saying that, Wellislana's aura became even stronger. He was like a source of power, and high-density ripples kept erupting from his body, like water temperature, wave after wave, occupying the entire sky in an instant. Wellislana, who fell with anger, was undeniably powerful. Even the heavens felt his will, and the energy ripples overflowing from his body fell with him, as if the entire sky was crashing down. Die! Wellislana clenched his fist and laughed excitedly. Just as he was about to crush Erica, a golden light appeared above his head without warning. What is this? Feeling the sharp edge locked onto him, Wellislana was shocked. He retracted his hand and looked up instinctively. The golden cold light mercilessly slashed at his head. In shock, Wellislana quickly turned his head to the side. Pfft! Blood splattered in the air. Although Wellislana avoided the fatal injury immediately, there was still a shocking crack on his back. Who is it? Holding back the pain on his back, Wellislana stared at the light. A young man holding a light sword appeared above his head. You're not dead. The Dustless that came into view was completely unscathed. There was nothing wrong with him at all. Wellislana's old blood spurted out uncontrollably. What was going on? He was hit with all his strength, but he was not injured at all. Did he have to be so overpowered? Whoosh! Dustless was silent. A layer of light flashed across his body, and in the next second, Dustless appeared in front of Wellislana. He came and went without a trace. I'm not dead, but unfortunately, you're going to die, Mr. God. The golden light gathered in his hand became brighter and brighter. Dustless stared at Velislana with a stern expression. He made up his mind and killed him instantly. Yasikani no Magatama. Chapter 14-15. Yasikani no Magatama. Dustless quietly approached Velislana, and the distance between the two was very close, so the dense flashes of light did not miss any of them, and all of them hit the poor god. Puchi! 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 The power of the Yasikani no Magatama was undeniable, and the fierce light bullets all hit Velislana. As a god, he was not easy to deal with. Even though his body was full of holes, and there were burn holes everywhere, he still maintained his consciousness, even though he was in so much pain that he was gritting his teeth. Ah! That's not easy, the body of a god is really strong. Dustless smiled lightly, and there was a frivolous smile on his face. Looking closely, Velislana's body was like a hole, and Dustless even suspected that if water was poured in from one of the holes, water would flow from all over his body. Your vitality is really strong, as expected of a god. Dustless rarely praised, and if it was an ordinary person, their body might have been pierced by the Yasikani no Magatama. However, these words were extremely harsh in Velislana's ears, and his eardrums were hurting, and in the end, there were even deep red blood stains. ****, Velislana was furious, and he resisted the urge to vomit blood, and stared at Dustless without blinking. His eyes were as sharp as knives, and he wanted to turn him into a stick. That was the only way to vent his anger. Dustless was obviously mocking him, saying that only the weak would be beaten. It's almost time to end this. Dustless's eyes were cold, and he had no interest in continuing to play. Golden chains shot out from the void behind him, and they locked onto Velislana like a poisonous snake. The glowing chain was the heaven lock that Dustless used to bind Mercado. This is the heaven lock. Damn it. Seeing this, Velislana's pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but step back. When Dustless used the heaven lock to bind Mercado, he clearly saw that Mercado couldn't break free. Therefore, he was in awe of the heaven lock. All gods would be locked down. The greater the divinity, the stronger the person, the more they would not be able to escape the nightmare created by the heavenly lock. Trying to run. Erica strode forward and appeared behind Velislana. She stared at him unkindly and said, "Surrender. Your future has already been decided. You are nothing to be afraid of at all with your injuries. You. Humph. It's fine if that guy is a pervert, but even a witch like you is looking down on me." A murderous intent flashed across Velislana's scarlet eyes. He was extremely displeased with Erica's attitude. It was fine if she admitted defeat in front of Dustless. He had nothing to say. After all, he was not as strong as Dustless and his skills were inferior. But you, a mere human, have to see who you're dealing with before you get carried away, God. Then I'll kill you first. With a ferocious smile, Velislana's shocking hole was healed. Even the scars were not left behind. It was repaired in an instant. This seems to be the ability of male sheep. Dustless narrowed his eyes and said in realization. He was quite familiar with the ability of Velislana, the god of the army of the East. Recovered. Erica said in shock. Her hands, which were holding the sword, were already sweating. I'll start with you. With a cold smile, Velislana flashed and came in front of Erica. His golden sword had been taken away. Now he could only rely on his fists. But a god was a god. Even if it was just a simple fist, the power was extremely exaggerated. It was not difficult to severely injure or even kill Erica. When the fist was about to hit Erica, Velislana suddenly stopped and looked down. There was a shiny chain wrapped around his waist. Do you think I don't exist? Get over here. With a gentle pull, Dustless pulled Welslana over. The golden sword in his hand that had been waiting for a long time slashed out. Poochie! Welslana's left arm was chopped off by Dustless. His face was in so much pain that it was almost twisted. Even so, his murderous intent was still locked onto Dustless. Why is it different from what I imagined? Looking at Welslana, who was howling on the ground, Dustless frowned. At this moment, a fragrant wind suddenly came from beside him. He turned around and saw that it was Erica. Your face is frighteningly red, Erica. Dustless observed Erica with a head full of confusion. He was still fine just now. Could it be? Dustless's face lit up. He vaguely understood what Erica meant. Just when he was about to ask, he suddenly found it difficult to speak. He licked his lips, but his mouth was blocked by Erica's lips. Then a lot of knowledge about Welslana flooded into his mind. The world in his eyes began to change. It became golden. Countless longswords stopped in the air and all pointed at Welslana. Bastard! Smelling the scent of death that he had never felt before, Welslana struggled. However, the heaven lock was too strong. Even if he used all his strength, it was useless. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless long swords stabbed out. Welslana was like a porcupine. His body was covered with all kinds of weapons. A god of a generation fell just like that. The next time we meet, I will definitely kill you and your little lover. Welslana's body gradually collapsed and disappeared. He stared at Dustless fiercely, wanting to remember this hateful face forever. Idiot, if I can kill you once, I can kill you 10 or even 100 times. Dustless snorted, ignoring Welslana's threat. At the same time, a soul-deep exhaustion rushed into his heart. Dustless fainted without realizing it. Chapter 14-16. In a strange white world. Dustless was lying quietly. After a long time, his nose wrinkled as if he noticed the difference in this world. Although he was puzzled, he still closed his eyes. So soft. The soft touch made Dustless restless. He wanted to open his eyes and look at this strange world, but he enjoyed the comfortable touch and couldn't help but rub it twice. So soft. Of course, after all, it's me. But... A crisp and pleasant voice suddenly came, and Dustless opened his eyes. A pink-haired girl with a ponytail came into view. She was glaring at Dustless and said angrily, "But saying that your mother is so soft is disgraceful. What's more, he even had such dirty thoughts. How rude. Mother." Hearing this strange name, Dustless's mouth twitched wildly. He is also a person who is hundreds of years old, and his mother has always been Uchiha Mikoto. "Who are you, little brat?" Standing up and stretching, Dustless asked in a bad mood, "Give me a reasonable explanation, or I will let you know the horror of offending me." She dares to ask me to call her mother. Dustless got goosebumps just thinking about it. He really can't say such a disgusting name, and he has nothing to do with this girl. The girl is about 10 years old. She has a good appearance and a slender figure. If compared with the beautiful figures of Lucurezia Zola or Erica Brantary, she is the slender type. She has a cute baby face and figure that makes people want to praise. The girl's long blonde hair is parted to the left and right, and she is wearing a thin white dress. But compared to anyone else, she has a more flirtatious woman feeling. Little brat. Hearing this, Pandora suddenly pouted and said in dissatisfaction, "You used my leg as a pillow to sleep, and you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you called me a little brat. This is a serious crime." "Your name is Pandora, right?" Dustless suddenly replied as he stared at the pink-haired girl, a strange glint flashing in his eyes. The origin of the Godslayers was related to her, and the person who managed the Godslayer reincarnation technique was Pandora. "You know me." Who are you? Pandora was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a monster. Very few people knew of her existence. My name is Dustless, a man who is about to become a godslayer. Glancing at Pandora, Dustless continued to lie in the unfamiliar world. He kept feeling that it was somewhat familiar. Perhaps it was just his dream. Humph. Since you know that I'm Pandora, you should also know my ability. Since you know that I'm a woman who can give you everything, be obedient. Be good and call me Mommy. With her hands on her hips, Pandora said very seriously. She was in charge of the Godslayer reincarnation technique, and it was also Pandora who created all the Godslayers. No, no, no. I won't listen to you. Some things have no choice. Since you dared to appear here, you have to help me become a Godslayer. Dustless smiled mysteriously as he shook his finger gently. As a transmigrator, he knew the inside story that no one else knew. You seem to know a lot, kid. Pandora frowned slightly. Even the lively and active her was a little downcast. The man in front of her was different from all the Godslayers in the past. His bright eyes seemed to be able to see through a person's thoughts, which made Pandora feel a little guilty. Even if the gods help humans, they have their own motives. You are no exception. Glancing lightly at Pandora, Dustless explained, although I don't know what you're doing, you should have checked my body just now. In fact, my body doesn't need you to modify it, and at the same time, I don't need the so-called power. I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime. Pursuing those powers is just to pass the time. Dustless gave an answer that made Pandora want to vomit blood. Her body trembled. I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime. How arrogant was this sentence? This little brat has a lot of puzzles. Dustless's thoughts raced. He had heard many rumors about Pandora in his previous life, and some of the descriptions were quite accurate. Pandora was created by Zeus, the king of the gods, and the gods. The gods gave her perfection, but at the same time, they gave her the mission of bringing disaster to mankind. She carried Pandora's box to punish mankind for the sin of privately using fire, civilization. Pandora was also human, and the gods' actions were equivalent to betraying mankind. The god of disobedience was also one of the disasters, and the bottom of Pandora's box was the last hope. The god slayer should be the hope at the bottom of Pandora's box. Dustless had heard countless versions of the above rumors. He didn't know the specific facts. In short, he was sure that Pandora had a bad relationship with the gods. Otherwise, she wouldn't help mankind kill the gods. Of course, these were not important. This had nothing to do with Dustless. And even if he didn't carry out the reincarnation ceremony of the God Slayer, Dustless didn't care. Anyway, he could use Rinnegan to control Pandora to carry out the reincarnation ceremony. Of course, it was only to obtain the authority of the gods. As for the change of body, forget it. Dustless didn't think that the bodies of the gods were more heaven-defying than his body of Jubi. Although you are very strong, and the authority of the gods is dispensable to you, at least you should respect me a little. Pandora blinked and said, her tone was full of helplessness, and she felt a headache. Dustless was the most heaven-defying and abnormal existence she had ever seen. Ordinary god slayers would be seriously injured after killing the gods. They would be infinitely close to being disabled and close to death. Only Dustless was an exception. Even if he killed 2 gods in succession, he didn't have the slightest injury. He was lively and extremely healthy. Chapter 14-17. Pandora admitted that compared to other godslayers, Dustless, who was a surpasser, was almost perfect in all aspects and had the qualifications to negotiate. Who would have thought that he was even stronger? Moreover, Dustless was not injured at all and did not need to change his body. "You're a little strange." After staring at Dustless for a while, Pandora finally gave a strange answer. There was only one outcome for an ordinary human who used the Prometheus secret manual: their entire body would collapse and die. However, Dustless used it without any adverse effects. Although you don't need to change your body, you still need to make some modifications to your body. Taking a look at Dustless, Pandora patiently explained, "If you don't do the basic transformation, even if you kill a god, it's impossible to obtain their authority. Of course, if you don't care about those authorities, you don't have to. Don't want it. That's the reward for my hard work. How can I not want it?" Upon hearing this, Dustless refuted. "Then feel free to take off your clothes," Pandora said abruptly. Pandora said extremely abruptly. Immediately, Wuchen seemed to be electrocuted, and his whole body stiffened. "Take off my clothes." Looking at her suspiciously, Dustless felt like she was looking for a lab rat to do an experiment. He had never heard of a reincarnation warlock taking off their clothes. "You're a little special. Special people have to be treated with corresponding special methods. Do you understand? For example, you're different from other godslayers. After they kill a god, almost all of them are in a state of near death. If you let yourself enter a state of near death, I can treat you the same as they do." Pandora shrugged and said. Her tone made one nod involuntarily. "You'd better not do anything strange." Giving a warning glance at Pandora, Dustless's threatening intent was full. No matter what world it was, or whose world it was, Dustless had the certainty to kill a person, even if the other party was an unfathomable god. "Of course, I'm your mother. If you mention that word again, don't blame me for being rude," Wuchen said with an ashen face. Inexplicably, a mother appeared out of nowhere. It was a pain in the ass. "All right, take off your clothes. Don't waste my precious time." Pandora waved her hand. She knew when to stop joking. "Caw caw caw." After saying that, a wave of energy surged out of Dustless's body. His clothes instantly disintegrated into pieces and slowly fell to the ground like goose feathers. "Very strong, your muscles are well proportioned," Pandora commented faintly. Then she said, "All right, please close your eyes." Wuchen nodded slightly and closed her eyes seriously. Pandora's expression was serious and solemn. She didn't seem to be joking with her. Although this eccentric god seemed unreliable, she wouldn't fool around casually. Ha! Pandora had forcefully kissed him during this period of time. F***ck. Dustless cursed in his heart. After being in love for so many years, he did not expect to be schemed against by a little girl and even be kissed by her. "The ritual is complete," Pandora suddenly said with a serious expression. Hearing that, Dustless was stunned. The hostility in his body also dissipated. He asked in surprise, "The ritual is complete? So fast? Moreover, if it's completed so easily, what's the point of me taking off my clothes?" Dustless's face darkened. He felt like he had been fooled. Well. Don't mind such a simple thing." Pandora chuckled and said, "Good boy, I'm your mother. Get to know your body." It's Tao Breaking 96, One Blade Cremation. In the quiet room, Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. There were still flames in his eyes. Damn that Pandora. Don't let me catch her next time. Otherwise. Humph. Wuchen gritted his teeth and said. Being chased and called his son, and being asked to call him mother, Wuchen felt a headache and was speechless. No matter the people in each world, there would always be a few weirdos. Someone seems to be grabbing me. With a strange expression, Dustless suddenly found that the quilt was bulging and he was sleeping on it. The environment was familiar. He guessed that he was now in Miss Lucrezia's house. 3 hands. Dustless's expression became even more strange. He suddenly felt that there were 3 hands grabbing him under the quilt. He was stunned when he lifted the quilt. Erica, don't hug my leg when you sleep. And Miss Lucrezia, take your hands away from my important parts. Wu Qin raised his voice several decibels and shouted angrily, waking up the 2 people who were sleeping soundly. It was an accident. I couldn't help it. It's an unavoidable factor. Lucrezia retracted her hands embarrassedly. At the same time, she turned her back to Dustless and sniffed her fingers. She looked as if she wanted more, which made Dustless feel stifled. The smell of a godslayer is indeed different, Lucrezia said, intoxicated with herself. To what extent is this old witch's thirst? Wu Qin said with a face full of disgust. He had a new understanding of this weird witch's hobby. At the same time, the news that Dustless had become a godslayer was unpredictable to the whole world. After all, the birth of a new king was too much of a concern. It could be said that Dustless's every move had affected some people's nerves. Dustless was speechless. These 2 perverts never cared about the occasion. Chapter 14:18. Dustless felt helpless. He knew that no matter if it was Erica or Lucrezia who liked to play this kind of game, Dustless could only complain. New king, what's your next step? Lucrezia looked at Dustless with a smile, pointed to the books of various mythological systems in his backpack and said, Don't tell me you're really going to kill all the mythological systems. By the way, only by killing the god of disobedience can you get the corresponding authority. Kill all the gods. Not interested. I'm not that bored. Dustless shook his head. Being a god slayer was a spur of the moment. In fact, the authority of the gods was not much of a temptation to him. The only ones that could interest Dustless were those gods with rare authority. As for the next step, I plan to leave Sardinia and go to Japan, Dustless said faintly after getting dressed. Go to Japan. Erica and Lucrezia looked at each other. The latter did not have much of a reaction, but Erica was different. The birth of a new king would cause a lot of problems. For example, the ownership of the king's country might conflict with the local magic resistance. As you wish. Erica sighed softly. She still hoped that Dustless would stay in Italy and see his unshakable eyes. But after thinking about it, she decided not to. This world was recognized by the king, and the king would bear it. Erica did not need to say anything. There seems to be a special guest. Frowning slightly, Dustless looked at the window. There, he felt a gaze, and it was the kind that was not concealed. It was hard not to notice. The mysterious newcomer was a very beautiful girl. About 13 or 14 years old. On the surface, he had a childish and angelic face. His silver hair reached his shoulders and melted into the moonlight. His pupils were as dark as the night. At that time, they thought that there was no need to fight and left. Later, she met the guardian for the second time at the seaside in pursuit of the Gorgon stone. She was wearing a thin sweater and miniskirt, black knee-length socks, and a blue braided hat over her silver hair. God of disobedience. Erica and Lucrezia were stunned, especially Erica, who blushed in embarrassment. As a knight, she didn't even notice the enemy's intrusion. She looks like Athena. After staring at the innocent girl for a while, Dustless was surprised. Although Athena had appeared in Sardinia in the original work, she didn't seem to have any intersection with Kusanagi Protector. When it came to this, the atmosphere changed. It's rude to invade someone else's home, Miss God of Disobedience. Gently pouring himself a glass of red wine, Dustless said with a calm expression, "What's the matter?" "They were just attracted by your fight." She stared at Dustless for a while. The God Slayer and the God of Disobedience are natural enemies. Is there a need for a battle of life and death? You're a war-loving God, daring to come to me. You're brave but admirable. Dustless nodded, but he had no intention of fighting. Although I am a warmonger, I am not interested in your authority. Therefore, this boring duel. I refuse. A strenuous and thankless duel is very disgusting. Wu Chen waved his hand and said with deep disgust. Forget it if we can't get any benefits from fighting for half a day. Dustless isn't interested in Athena's authority. This guy, compared to Dustless who remained calm, Erica was full of indescribable nervousness. There were even obvious sweat stains on both sides of her temples. Is it the Gorgon stone? Dustless frowned. He knew some secrets that no one else knew. That means you'll only fight when you meet the god of disobedience that you're interested in. What an eccentric god-slayer. Athena said softly, and then her tone took a turn for the worse. You're looking down on me. Looking down. Dustless frowned. Although it was a bit far-fetched, it was an indisputable fact. It was because he looked down on her that he was not interested. Then what do you want? Dustless asked faintly. He had smelled Athena's hostility. Interesting. Athena's naturally cute little face had a playful look. Her body emitted a faint black light, releasing her godlike aura. Croak, croak, croak. The mirrors in the room, the household appliances, and all the wooden furniture were making a croak croak sound, and there were clear cracks. Is this a god? So powerful. Erica and Locorazia were embarrassed. Dustless, with his excellent vision, could even see the two girls' hair standing on end and sweat dripping down like raindrops. As expected of a god, but Dustless nodded slightly. Even he was faintly affected. But his strength was far beyond Erica and Locorazia's, so even a god's deterrence had little effect on him. It was wishful thinking to use this to force Dustless to surrender. But attacking my friends and knights is still unforgivable. Dustless's face was obviously cold, and his eyes were cold. Unforgivable. Are you kidding? God Slayer. The corners of Athena's mouth curled up as she sneered. Although a god slayer can defeat a god, you seem to have forgotten one thing. Even gods have different levels of strength. Athena said proudly. She had to admit that as a god of the Trinity, she did have the right to be proud. You are no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. Chapter 14:19. You are no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. However, Dustless did not buy it. In Dustless's eyes, Athena was no different from Mercado and Welslana. They were all gods, and there was no difference in strength. Anyway, the end result would be the same. You are very different from the other godslayers. The deterrents released all blasted onto Dustless, and an invisible force distorted his surroundings. Caw caw caw. The floor under Dustless's feet burst open. His whole body seemed to be hundreds of times heavier, and the ground collapsed. However, from his calm expression, it was not difficult to see that he was not affected. This is too boring. After a while, Dustless sighed and said, Now you are not at your peak. I don't feel hungry defeating you. Come and find me when you have recovered your strength. Dustless waved his hand and looked at Athena as if she was a noob. You. Although I don't know how strong you are, I am sure that your talking skills are profound and powerful. Athena's small face flashed with fierceness. Gods were not easily angered, but once they were, the consequences were extremely serious. You are just a god slayer. Athena raised her hand, and a purple-black high-density energy attack came at him. You want to hurt me with your filthy light? You are too naive. Dustless was not afraid at all, and then suddenly changed the topic and said, "However, it is not a bad choice to use you to familiarize myself with Welleslana's ability." As for Mercado's power, Dustless had already chosen to ignore it. "You little brat, you want to use me as a whetstone." Athena's mouth twitched, and she suddenly felt that this human in front of her was not an ordinary one. "I am merciful enough to play with you. You should thank me." Dustless smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a glittering golden sword appeared in an instant. Then, he glanced at the purple-black fog that flew at him, and the golden sword swept out. Poochie! As if he was cutting vegetables, he crushed and destroyed them as casually as taking a stroll. "That sword seems to be..." Athena's pupils shrank, and her eyes became dim and empty. She seemed to have sunk into her memories. She seemed to be familiar with Dustless's golden sword. "This is the golden sword, one of Welleslana's powers." Dustless looked at Athena, who had some impression of the golden sword, and told her everything with a smile. "You have to be careful. Other than this clone, I have 9 more. You idiot, you'd better know when to stop." Before his voice had died away, Erica had pounced on Dustless with a dark face and covered his mouth with both hands. She scolded loudly, "Are you an idiot? How dare you tell others about your authority? Your opponent is a god, and you can only win if you keep your trump cards." Erica wanted to cry. This guy was hopeless. Whoa. Dustless opened his mouth and roared, but his mouth was covered by Erica. After a long time, Erica still didn't understand what Dustless was trying to say. However, from his indifferent eyes, Erica could tell that he didn't care. "Have you guys had enough?" A cold voice sounded. Looking at the source of the voice, it was Athena who was ignored. At this moment, she was glaring at Dustless with an unfriendly expression. Athena was quite uncomfortable with her tone, as if she had eaten a fly. She couldn't even breathe properly. When a god was unhappy, someone would naturally be unlucky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Several magic light balls swept over. The power and quantity of the magic light balls were greater than before. Oh no! Erica panicked. At this moment, she was still on top of Dustless. There was no time to stand up and dodge. She couldn't help but curse in her heart. She was still flirting with Dustless when facing a powerful enemy. In a trance, Erica even saw the shadow of death. Hum. When Erica was in despair, the void around her suddenly rippled like water temperature, and a weak small hole with waves of gravity appeared. God's power. As soon as Dustless finished speaking, the small vortex became several times bigger and turned into a small black hole. The gravity directly absorbed Athena's power. Then the space closed, and everything returned to normal. What is this? Both Erica and Locorazia were stunned, including Athena. She looked at Dustless speechlessly and hesitantly. "Are you sure this is the power of Welleslana? This place is a bit small. It's not good to burn Miss Locораzia's house." Dustless stood up and dusted off his clothes, looking at the always expressionless Athena. "Only the strong have the right to talk," Athena said calmly. Still maintaining absolute confidence. Although the Godslayer could kill gods, they were not invincible. "You've misunderstood. If we fight here, Miss Locораzia's house will inevitably be damaged. So, in order to avoid causing her losses, I can only kill you instantly," Dustless said coldly with a cold light in his eyes. "You bastard." Athena was furious at Dustless's words. If he could kill her instantly, why would he change the venue? What did this mean? Dustless wanted to play with her. Athena reacted violently to his blatant contempt and disdain. A black scythe appeared in her hand, flickering with a sharp and dazzling light. "If you can defeat me, then go ahead and try." With that, Athena charged over without caring about the consequences. She was a warmonger, and the blood of battle flowed in her body. It was her nature to challenge the strong. Chapter 14:20. Erica was so nervous that her fists were sweating. She knew the exact location of what Athena wanted, and she couldn't hide it even if she wanted to. Human tricks were nothing to Athena. To put it bluntly, they were just asking to be humiliated. If I say we have to change, then we have to change. You don't have a choice. Dustless didn't give Athena a chance to react. His body flashed fiercely, and the dazzling golden light made everyone close their eyes. Athena was no exception. She hated the light that could chase away the night more than anyone else. Who caught me? Sensing that her arm was being attacked, Athena panicked. There was only a blurry glowing figure in front of her. Due to the speed, she didn't know who it was. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Then, she was forcefully pulled away at an unprecedented speed. In less than a second, she crossed thousands of meters and arrived at a desolate land. The light also took the initiative to pull away from Athena. That was, looking around at the unfamiliar environment, Athena was a little dazed. It was just a blink of an eye. She felt as if she had run thousands of miles away. Your authority is so enviable. Looking at Dustless, Athena knew that the person who forcefully dragged her away was this frivolous guy in front of her. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Dustless. Thank you for sparring with me. Dustless thanked her seriously. It wasn't a bad idea to find someone who was familiar with Wellislana's authority. Even with Athena's otherworldly character, she was infuriated by Dustless at this moment. How dare he find a powerful god to be his sparring partner? Outrageous. Athena felt like she was being belittled. Don't look so angry. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Dustless gave her a reassuring look. Unexpectedly, Athena only snorted. Then let me see if you have the ability. With that, Athena floated in the sky, holding the shining ghost scythe tightly in her hand. She turned into a blur and pounced forward. The cold light was about to cut through Silver's head. Frowning slightly, Dustless's eyes flashed with displeasure. Too weak. Even if you are a cameo, you have to be professional. Please be more serious. Clang clang clang. Dustless grabbed the scythe with his bare hands and whispered, act more seriously. Maybe I'll give you the Gorgon Stone for free when I'm in a good mood. Arrogant. Hearing this, Athena's expression turned cold, and the strength in her hands involuntarily increased by several times, forcing Dustless to retreat repeatedly. Good. Wu Chen's eyes shone with awe-inspiring light, and he immediately activated the authority of Mighty Bowl. A powerful force flowed through his body, and Wu Chen suddenly felt that his bowl strength had increased by dozens of times. Go back. Athena's expression was ugly. She did not expect Dustless's strength to be so great that she could force him to retreat. What was worse was that when her strength increased, Dustless's strength would also increase. Cough cough cough, Dustless suddenly coughed twice. He pointed his left arm to the sky and said, for victory, come to me. Undying sun, please bestow upon me the shining steed, the spirited steed, bring forth your master's will of light. Woo woo woo, the sky suddenly lit up. Looking up, under Athena's shocked gaze, a flaming horse's whinny resounded through the sky. It's those hateful horses. Athena said solemnly. Obviously, she had a good impression of this authority. Sensing the danger, she took the initiative to distance herself from Dustless. It's average, but it's not bad. Dustless said with a smile. To some extent, Ardent Sun and Athena were natural enemies that could not be reconciled. I can only take it head-on. A green-faced fanged shield appeared in Athena's hand. She raised it above her head. It seemed like she was going to use it to defend herself. Boom, boom, boom. The flaming horse charged at the stone shield with full force. The ground under Athena's feet cracked. The powerful force pressed Athena into the ground. "Well," I said, "if you want to take advantage of the situation." Athena interrupted Dushless. Her big eyes looked coldly at Dushless. His body began to change, losing a lot of water. "You don't know how to be kind at all. Also, what's wrong with my body?" Dustless pursed his lips. He had planned to go easy on Athena. After all, he did not have a deep grudge against her. However, Dustless found that his body was turning into stone. Oh right, this guy's eyes seem to be able to turn everything he sees into stone. Even people. Dustless was more or less interested. It was a good ability to turn an enemy into stone with just a glance. If he was caught off guard, he would be petrified before he could react. "Get out of my way." With a roar, Athena's body exploded with a powerful force. It actually offset the destructive waves from the white horse. Athena even felt that it was unbelievable after it was over. Could it be that this guy went easy on me? Athena looked at the petrified Dustless suspiciously. At the same time, Dustless's body was gradually petrified. His lower body almost turned into stone. It was about to corrode his upper body and occupy it. Athena was both the war god and the goddess of wisdom. She could see through the opponent's personality and divine power. As the god of darkness, she had the highest level of power. She could control snakes and summon owls. She also had the power of the evil eye that could turn everything into stone. As the master of the underworld, she could use the death god's curse or expand the domain of darkness to block vision and create a shield. "Let's stop here." Athena smiled. Just as she was about to leave, Dustless's sudden action stunned her. Chapter 14:21. In the long river of time, there were countless people who had left a deep impression on Athena, but the most unforgettable one was still the handsome young man in front of her. It was as if he was branded in the depths of her soul. Caw caw caw. Dustless shattered his petrified lower body and looked at Athena expressionlessly, not caring at all. "Are you crazy? Your body will be completely destroyed if you do that," Athena said in shock. She secretly cursed him for being an idiot. Such a rash action was equivalent to self-mutilation. "Crazy? What you think is inconceivable is just a small matter to me." Hearing this, Dustless snorted disdainfully and retorted, "The shocking thing in your eyes is just a trivial matter in my eyes." Then, Dustless's body underwent an inconceivable change. Large amounts of white liquid flowed out of his body, replenishing the damaged parts. Athena could already guess what was going to happen next. "This is impossible. Where did he come from? Why does he have so many abilities that even the gods are jealous of?" Athena was confused. What happened to Wu Chen's body proved her conjecture. His broken body was restored to its original state. "I am the same as you. I have an immortal body. No matter what kind of attack I receive, I will recover." Dustless didn't say much. He just explained indifferently as if he was narrating a trivial matter that wasn't worth mentioning. "What is your name?" Athena finally started to pay attention to Dustless. "Dustless." Athena frowned and said without thinking, "I don't think there is such a name, don't think about it." "I am not a god," Dustless said disapprovingly. "So what if he was a god? The number of gods that died in his hands could be used as a refugee camp. Your ability is also very strange. It doesn't seem to belong to authority." Athena guessed. She was a god of the Trinity. When she was the goddess of wisdom, she had the ability to see the other party's personality and divine power. With bright eyes, Athena stared at Dustless. Just as she was about to launch her ability to find out what was going on, the cold tone stopped her from doing so. There are some things that shouldn't be exposed. I advise you not to delve into it. Taking a deep look at Athena, Dustless said meaningfully. Are you afraid that I will know your secret and see through your weakness? Athena's eyes were full of contempt. If that is the case, God Slayer, you are going to be in trouble. Little girls nowadays, no, gods nowadays are really naive. Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, why is Pandora's box so popular? That's because every living creature has a curious heart. They want to know what's hidden in Pandora. Perhaps it's some kind of treasure, perhaps it's. But when they open it, they discover that what's hidden in Pandora isn't a shiny jewel, nor is it an elixir of immortality. Instead, it's an endless calamity and despair. It's the source of evil. Do you understand what I mean? Athena frowned. As the goddess of wisdom, her intelligence was naturally not for show. Are you saying that you are Pandora's box? Who knows? Shrugging his shoulders, Wu Qin gave an ambiguous answer. All in all, sometimes knowing too many secrets will make you feel that life is very torturous. Isn't it good to live in ignorance and happiness? That is you. Athena glared fiercely at Dustless. Although she refuted Dustless's ridiculous theory, she chose to obey in her heart. Understanding everything about Dustless's past might be a terrible thing. Go to hell. A large cloud of black fog emerged from her hand, and the surrounding sky was covered. Dustless was also in the black fog, and his body was corroded. The damaged body was endlessly repaired. Just like Athena, immortal and indestructible, any wound could be healed. You're too weak right now. Come and challenge me when you've recovered to your peak. Dustless glanced at Athena. He wasn't interested in her authority. Dustless was no exception to Athena's abilities. Want to leave? Athena was about to launch a large-scale attack, but she fainted without warning. Sleep for a while. Rinnegan emitted a faint ripple, and majestic spiritual power invaded Athena's mind. She, who was full of fighting spirit, instantly closed her eyes and fell asleep. Plop! Athena fell on the soft grass, and Dustless was nowhere to be seen. Next, I will go to Japan. Dustless whispered to himself. He originally wanted to see Luohao, but after thinking about it, he gave up. After the violent Bishop Luo knew that he had become a god slayer, he would fight with him for 300 rounds. Anyway, there was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. At Locorazia's home. Is Athena done? Erica and Locorazia asked in unison. They were full of confidence in Dustless. Since he could come back safe and sound, it meant that Athena had failed. Done. She is probably sleeping soundly now. Hearing this, Erica angrily picked up a glass of water and threw it at Dustless. Fortunately, his elemental body was able to dodge it, or his handsome face would be disfigured. Why don't you kill her? Her power is no less than Wellislana's. Erica's pretty face darkened, and she even wanted to pull Dustless over to kill him. She suspected, are you bewitched by her beauty? I just don't like her. Dustless responded faintly, and sat on the sofa with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 14:22. Countless crows flew past Erica's head at Dustless's straightforward answer. She was speechless and conflicted. That was the power of a god, and it was better than nothing. But Erica knew that she could not persuade Dustless, so she could only let him be. One was a knight, and the other was a king. She could only obey Dustless's orders. She had no right to disobey. Pack your luggage, Erica. We're going to Japan tomorrow. As you command, my king. Erica knelt on one knee and made a gesture of obedience. Really, seeing this, Dustless shook his head. When Erica was serious, she was so serious that he did not even give her face. But when she was lazy, she was like a different person. "Aw. Don't you need to stay for a few more days? I'm still a little." "No need." Erica glared at Lucrezia and scolded in her mind, "Really, she's so flirtatious at her age. The world is so cold." At the same time, in another direction. In a dark and oppressive palace, an old man sat on the throne with a solemn expression. His expression was solemn and dignified, and he exuded a powerful aura. His eyes were green, and he looked like a hungry wolf that was about to devour its prey. Marquis Warban. On the carpet below, a silver-haired girl knelt on one knee. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. She did not even dare to look at the man on the throne. Her body was trembling as if she had encountered some super terrifying creature. Beads of cold sweat were dripping down her face. A new godslayer has appeared. Liliana Kranikar. The old man who was called Marquis Warban asked faintly. His tone was demonic and naturally oppressive. Liliana immediately tensed up and replied, "Yes, Marquis. The new godslayer is very powerful. He killed 2 gods easily." 2 gods. Curiosity flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes. He asked with interest, "What's his name?" Hearing this, Liliana's expression froze. She apologized, "I haven't found anything yet." Enough." Marquis Warban bellowed, not giving Liliana a chance to defend herself. He said coldly, "There will only be one exception and one disappointment. If we don't know his name and origin next time." Humph. At the same time, Liliana displayed the knowledge of a large number of white skeletons. She waved the steel saber in her hand. Her meaning was self-evident. "Understood, Lord Marquis. That guy is rushing to Japan. I'll go and investigate." Liliana, who was trembling in fear, quickly agreed. This was what it meant to be in the king's company. He could turn hostile in an instant. Furthermore, he could treat a loyal subordinate of many years as trash and kill her at any time. This was a king. 5 days later, at Japan International Airport. Erica and Dustless walked out side by side. Compared to Erica, who had many bags, Dustless was empty-handed. He didn't even have a backpack. The plastic bag in his hand was full of snacks. ****, letting a lady carry your luggage and not giving me anything to eat. You really deserve to die." Erica roared crazily, attracting the attention of a group of people who pointed at her and whispered. Dustless decisively put some distance between them. "Does this guy have any gentlemanly demeanor?" Erica was speechless. Realizing that she had lost her composure, she quickly calmed down. "Where are we going?" Erica approached Dustless. Resisting the urge to beat him up, she grabbed a handful of popcorn from Dustless and stuffed it into her mouth. "Where are we going?" Dustless listened. This question was really difficult for him. He shrugged and said, "Actually, I don't know where to go either." Pfft. The popcorn that she had just swallowed was spurted out in an instant. Erica's face and ears turned red as if her throat was blocked. She quickly grabbed the water bottle in Wu Chen's hand and gulped down a few mouthfuls of water, suppressing her murderous rage. "Then what are you going to do? Sleep on the street?" Erica only felt that the future was dark. This king's strength was not bad. As for other aspects, where to go is indeed a problem. Dustless nodded slightly, lowered his head and thought for 2 seconds, then said, "Let's go to Kusanagi Protector's place. I gave him a lot of money. He will definitely treat me well." Then, Dustless took Erica and ran to Kusanagi Protector's house. Dustless was still somewhat familiar with the route to his house. Kusanagi Protector. Erica showed a blank expression. There was no such person in her memory. He has changed from the first protagonist to the first passerby. Of course, you know him. Dustless chuckled. Kusanagi Protector had been dismissed by him with 10 billion yen. Erica and Dustless were not ordinary humans. After a while, they came to the door of Kusanagi Protector's house, but it was different from Dustless's memory. Did we come to the wrong place? Did someone die in his house? Erica was suspicious. There were wreaths in front of Kusanagi Protector's house. Obviously, someone had just died. Dustless stammered for a long time without saying anything. He didn't know either. Don't worry about it. Let's go in and have a look. Erica nodded and followed Dustless into the room. Who are you? A clear voice came. Looking around, Kusanagi Protector's sister slowly walked in. Her eyes were red and she was extremely sad. Dustless, however, stared at the portrait in the room in shock. F***CK, is it because my eyesight is seriously overdrawn? The one hanging on the portrait is Kusanagi Protector? Wu Qin said in astonishment in his heart, blowing up a violent storm. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.